Welcome back to HPP, the podcast that covers college basketball and the NBA draft inside and out. I am Rich Harris, and thank you for joining us again. We have a totally packed house today with Drew Barton, Ayab Booney, Jake Kopstick here, and soon Doc Llewellyn will join us. We were to have a guest, FAU's Elijah Martin, but he had to reschedule, but we hope to see him soon. So after having 25 guests last week, we have none this week. But gentlemen, before we begin, I want to get your opinions on Jake wanting to schedule the show around the NFL draft. I'm not even sure what sport that is. Is that cricket?
I'll defend myself. I'm a draft guy. Sometimes I'm liable to sit there all 3 days and watch every single pick.
That is, you know, even when I covered the NFL, I did not do that. I just could not stand the way ESPN drug it out and made it into 3 days. I just thought it was absolutely absurd. Still do. And I haven't watched it since I stopped covering the NFL.
That's good background noise still. At least on day 3, the picks just roll in.
Do you know what good background noise is? A January 15th game between Toledo and Kent State. That's good background noise. There's only one sport, Jake. Drew and I had this talk before, didn't we, Drew?
Yeah. Was this last year? Did we talk about? Was it last?
No. It was about 6-9 months ago.
Yeah.
They told you had to give up football.
Yeah, I can't.
It's all right.
If I give up football, I give up my Sundays. Sundays, like before college basketball starts, it's nice because then I kind of juggle and I got 2 screens going. But yeah, nothing I love more. Pot of chili. My mom puts a pot of sauce on or something like that, and you just sit your ass on the couch, and you only get up to use the bathroom or get food. It's great. Nothing like it.
Yeah, I mean, I'm liable to. I got a closet full of NFL jerseys. I got traditions here. Every year in fantasy football, I draft my number 1 overall pick. I buy his jersey. So nice. I'm a football guy. I mean, basketball through and through. But yeah, Jake, there's something about a Sunday where you just crack a beer and don't move for like 6 hours.
Yeah,
and you got an built-in excuse. That's the best part. If anyone gives you shit, they're un-American for it. So,
yeah. I do have communist tendencies. The downside of me covering the NFL for 10 years is that my wife got into it. And now she gets pissed off if I don't sit on the couch with her on Sundays. So I end up watching it too, usually, sometimes against my will. I do like to watch my Chiefs and I do like to watch the Eagles, but everybody else, I'm not too concerned about. Anyway, let's move on to the College Hoops Notebook. And the portal, oh geez, I know we're over 1,500 now. I don't know if it's even slowing down. I suppose it's slowing down with the new guys coming in, but it's not slowing down in the sense that now people are starting to sign. So that's what we're going to go over with. And it looks like the big winner this week was Gonzaga. They signed Ryan Nebhard from Creighton and Graham Ike from Gonzaga. I'll let the West Coast guys run with this. And what do you guys think?
I mean, as the resident Zags fan, Zags got dudes. It was just a matter of time. I mean, that Friday. It was a beautiful day. The Warriors won their playoff game, and I woke up and I saw Ryan Nemhard and Graham Ike were heading to the Zags. I mean, the reality of it is we've talked about this ad nauseum, especially in the tournament. The biggest thing they were missing was a point guard, and they just landed one of the top 3-4 in the nation, whose team was a shot away. A couple of free throws away from playing in a Final Four. So Nemhard was a bit of a surprise. I won't lie. I think we all talked about it. And when it first came out, it seemed like Arizona was where he was going to go. But as he started taking visits up there and Andrew, his brother, got involved and the family got involved, I feel like there was a more and more push that the Zags were getting their foot in the door. And if you go back and listen to the interview that Ryan actually gave, he said the big thing was trust. and that he trusts few with his career, seeing that he kind of helped get Andrew to a position where he was arguably the best point guard in the nation, got drafted, if I'm not mistaken, was at the very end of the first round, and has had a really successful.
I think he was a second rounder, wasn't he?
Yeah, he's a second round pick.
Second rounder? Okay. So he's a second round pick, but has popped and has had a very successful rookie year. So the reality of it is you're losing Strother, you're losing Drew Timme. It looks like you can't really replace guys like that easily, especially Drew Timme. But I look at this roster and you just got a position of need at point guard. And while, Graham is not Drew Timme, nobody is. You look at the last time he was healthy, 19-9, he just battled injuries. Statistically, at least, you're looking to replace some of that and kind of mitigate that loss. The big thing for this team is going to be what happens with Anton Watson and Malachi Smith. If they can get both of them back, I think this team is all signs point to this being another great year. If they get one, they'll be all right. If they don't get either, if they both decide to stick in the draft while they've improved, they're still going to be very, very light when it comes to the bench. That's my only concern. In theory, the only returning bench contributor you would have would be Ben Gregg, who's more of an energy spark plug kind of guy, not somebody you want being your sixth man. They have 3 incoming freshmen that I like, but
I think Gregg's a good sixth man personally.
Yeah, no, I mean, I
think he would start for hundreds of other D1 teams.
Sure, but I just question what more. You got to have a little bit more. Now, I like where the team's at, and I think it's a massive win. So this is not me taking away. I'm thrilled with these additions overall. At a minimum, it keeps them at the top of the WCC. It keeps them firmly in that AP top 25 contention. And if any of those freshmen pop, maybe they can snag one more transfer. Maybe Malachi and Anton come back. There's a lot of variables, and I think that this team, though, all signs are pointing up after what was quite a bit of sad news with departures and transfers and stuff.
Yeah, the only problem I see is EK, even though he's 6'10", dominant inside, he doesn't block. He's like a worse shot blocker than Timme. He averaged 0.3 blocks per game the same year he averaged 20, and 10 at Wyoming, and the last time I saw this guy play, he was just getting totally taken out of the game in the NCAA tournament.
They were terrible, and that's actually the first game we ever talked about, Rich.
He missed bunny after bunny. Of course, I'm not sold on Ike. At one point he was in our top 200, but he's not anymore. We shall see. He's only I guess a junior.
Yes.
Yeah, junior.
Yes.
So. But yeah, for a 6'10" guy, only 0.3 blocks per game. Wow. Oh, and Nebhard in his career and few, I don't quite get that either, because I think it's unreasonable. I think Nebhard had plenty of exposure. He's seen more in the Big East. I mean, all the Big East games are televised either by CBS or by Fox. Gonzaga gets on TV maybe 10 times a year if they're lucky, and over here on the East Coast. And Nebhard Ryan is 4 inches shorter than Andrew. So yeah, they have a similar game, but those 4 inches can mean a lot.
Yeah, I'm
No, I'm not. I think it's a great move. I think it's a great move for Gonzaga, and I think he's going to be possibly an All-American point guard. But what I'm saying, if he's thinking I'm going to Gonzaga, I'm leaving to go to Gonzaga to further my NBA.
I think maybe he has some insider information, because we'll get to it. But I do think
I asked people who are, very close to the team, part of the team. And they said they didn't know, but maybe they know and they just won't say. Not everyone doesn't tell a reporter everything, obviously. So yeah, I just thought it was kind of curious to leave what
I agree.
What could be a Final Four team to. I mean, really, I think Nebhard on Creighton is a better team than Nebhard on Gonzaga.
I agree. I think the one thing is Ryan may have some inside information on what the futures and decisions of guys like Alexander, Kaluma and Kalkbrenner are. If he's looking at it like maybe they've all talked and those guys, because I feel we'll get to this, I'm sure.
If that was the case,
has a lot
but if that was the case, wouldn't Baylor Shireman have gone into the draft too?
Maybe. Maybe there was something he heard or that there was uncertainty and he thought if Creighton has the most to gain or lose with the withdrawal period, if those three all come back, that team's got Final Four written all over it, arguably the best starting five in the country. If those three don't, Ryan was like, I'm getting ahead of that. So maybe he knows something we don't know.
That's a great point. That's a great point.
I think Nebhardt's better on Gonzaga than he would on Creighton. He's going to have the ball a lot more in his hands, going to get a lot more shots up. Creighton, everyone on that.
We're talking about team, though. We're talking about as a team, which team is better?
See, I think is huge. I mean, I think he's not Timmy, but he's the next best thing.
No way. He's not close. First of all, well, all right.
As far as scoring inside and in the paint, I mean, who's better than him in the country?
Yeah, in the Mountain West where he could bully people. But like I said, the last game we saw him, he looked like a flunky.
But that's one. I mean, I get it. That's one game. If we're judging everybody in one game, I mean, we could.
That was the one game against real tough competition. And so sure he'll do fine. He'll do fine in the West Coast Conference. But when it comes to the NCAA, well, I just Ike is not Drew Timme. I mean, he can't dribble like that.
I'm not. I think he's just. But I think he
can't pass like that.
He's not Ryan Kalkbrenner either.
No.
You're talking about arguably the greatest college basketball player, one of the top 10 college basketball players of all time, and Drew Timme.
But it's just like Jake said, he's not even close to Ryan Kalkbrenner, and he's not.
I don't think he is. But you guys are talking about some really, really, really good players.
Right, but that was the question. The question is the Nebhardt's Creighton better than Gonzaga with Nebhardt? And I say Creighton is better with Nebhardt than Gonzaga is with Nebhardt. If they play,
I don't think it's hands down.
No, I don't. I'm not saying Gonzaga is going to be trash this year. Certainly not. I think they're going to be a top 25 team. But I think Creighton with Nebhardt is definitely a top 10 team. All right, we'll move on. I'm cranky today. Okay, so on the negative side, Hunter Salas, very athletic, former 5-star, went to Wake Forest. I know you had some interesting comparisons because you Drew. I believe on Twitter about going to Wake Forest. So why don't you shoot that off?
Oh yeah, I just having seen Hunter play for 2 years, I wish he had stuck around because his role was slowly expanding. I mean, the reality of it is this kid came into a team that was just loaded with perimeter players, and he's not the most skilled player when you look at his ability to shoot, his playmaking. But one thing Hunter does extremely well is he's a great athlete and he competes on defense, which is something any team could use. I had retweeted that Wake Forest has had a history over the last couple of seasons with Alondas Williams. Was that 2 years ago? 2 seasons? And then
ACC Player of the Year.
Yeah, and then Tyree Appleby coming in
should have been ACC Player of the Year.
Yeah, so I think this is a great fit in terms of his personal development. Obviously, in terms of like overall team and program, it's a step down. But I kind of like this trend in general. I feel like there have been guys who have made some moves here that have just been better for them as individuals, where maybe they've stepped down from a program in terms of the profile or the overall talent. And I think this is going to do well for Salas overall in his career. He's probably going to have to play the next 2 seasons unless he explodes. He's not like an NBA, lock or anything like that, but he's going to be given a little bit more freedom. Now he's got to develop as a player. I mean, as much as he can look at the Zags, giving him limited opportunity, when he did have opportunity, he wasn't a knockdown shooter. He wasn't playmaking. He was more just an energy spark plug, come in, give you some defensive minutes, attack the rack. So I like the overall fit. I think that there is an opportunity for him to follow in those guys' footsteps, given his 5-star pedigree, his athleticism, his competitive nature, his defensive versatility. But it will just be very interesting. I know Nebraska was also in the running, which was his home state. So he was looking, it boiled down to Wake Forest and Nebraska. I think overall Wake Forest was a great place for him to go develop. And while the team will probably never reach the heights.
Wake Forest is going to be good next year. They have a nice core. They have a nice core.
But I like the move overall, and I think it's the best opportunity for him. And he's probably looking at the profile like Alondes Williams didn't have the most traditional pathway to becoming the ACC Player of the Year, so he's probably thinking, "Hey, I kind of not wasted, but my first 2 years really weren't. I wasn't given a huge opportunity. Maybe I go this next year, become a key piece of this team, and then similar to these guys like Tyree, like Alondes, my senior year, I just pop, make a statement." We'll see. And
it won't be a huge adjustment because Wake Forest likes to play up tempo.
Yes, exactly.
Play up tempo. So yeah, I think it's a nice fit. All right, Jake, we're going to let you talk. Hakeem Hart to Villanova. How happy are you about this?
Yeah, this is awesome for a guy who played at Roman Catholic. He's a Philly guy to come home. He fills a huge need for them with Slater and Caleb Daniels leaving, and they're kind of positionless wing, like the way they like to play with a bunch of wings, and they don't really give them a position. They just play very versatile guys 2 through 5, even 1 through 5. If they can have a bigger guy hold a bigger guy handle the ball like a Justin Moore who can play any guard spot and also play the 1. So yeah, it's big time to get a guy like him. He can shoot the 3 a little bit. He can play defense. He can switch. He's got really nice size at 6'6", 6'7" on the wing. So he's going to be huge for them. He's going to fit exactly what Nova wants to do. He'll defend multiple positions. He'll stretch the floor when he has to. And he's going to be a 5th-year Philly guy as well to play his last year closer to home. So to get an experienced guy that's going to help in a lot of different areas, really big pickup here for Villanova. And hopefully they're not done because Hunter Dickinson will be on campus tomorrow.
Right.
They're not done.
Right. And you and I will be on campus. And if Hunter leaves without signing a commitment, we're going to kidnap him.
Any news on where he's supposed to go, Hunter? Or who's favored to get him? Is it Villanova?
There's not a lot of talk about it. So he visited Kentucky, but Kentucky might get Sheboy back. He knows that.
Right.
But he's visited Kentucky and he's visited Maryland and Georgetown.
I honestly mean this. I think Villanova out of all those options is the best for him, and the best gives him the best chance to get to the Final Four. That's my opinion. Kentucky, you could say that, but we always know Kentucky's a damn mess. And they've had really, not good results in the last, 4, 5, 6 years.
I had heard for Hunter that Kansas, and maybe this was, but I heard Kansas was making a pitch to him.
Well, Kansas, if you look at their roster, what's left now? There's not a lot left.
Yeah, no, I heard that they were kind of like a dark horse. I don't think he's visited. I'm sure he's talked to Self. I mean, everyone's probably talked to Hunter. Any program worth a damn has probably reached out, but right. I heard Kansas was trying to make a push. Might be like a dark horse to keep an eye on, but I do agree. I think Nova would be, as it stands, Nova would be the one to go if he wants to make a run.
Right.
I think he did visit. It's good you brought that up, Drew. I forgot that one. I think he did visit.
He did visit? Okay, there you go.
I think he did visit.
So let's let Booney talk a little bit here. Another big winner last week was North Carolina, and of course Stanford, Harrison's Ingram went to North Carolina along with Cormac Ryan, who I've seen. Okay, let's make this clear, folks. I rarely miss a Villanova game, and I rarely miss a Notre Dame game. So when I talk about Villanova and Notre Dame players, I know what I'm talking about. Ryan is an excellent shooter, a good leader, a solid defender. I believe he went to Stanford too, Booney. I know he was a 4-star. He might even been a top 50 guy coming in. Do you remember?
He was a 4-star, yeah.
Right. Okay, so they get these two. Of course, Cormac has spent the last 3 seasons in Notre Dame after his freshman season at Stanford. Harrison Ingram spent the last 2 years at Stanford. And, of course, he's a former 5-star. So they're both going to North Carolina. What do you think about these Stanford guys going to Carolina? Are we looking at another Pete Nance affair, or are these guys going to fit in better?
I mean, Carolina has a lot of action, a lot of things going on this offseason. I mean, Caleb Love leaving, Shaver leaving, and then they signed Jalen Withers. Right.
Jalen
Withers signed. They got Dontre Styles, who left to Georgetown, Nickel left to Virginia Tech, McCoy left to Hawaii. So they've got a lot of stuff going on. I mean, the question with Ingram is can he live up to that 4-star billing that initially had him sign over to Stanford? He was bad at Stanford, to say the least.
Yeah.
Couldn't shoot the ball, couldn't put the ball in the bucket. Stanford overall was a great defensive team, and Ingram was key to that defense. I think he's going to bring that to it. Excuse me. I like the signing of Kolak as well.
Yeah, spread the floor. Give them a reliable outside shooter for once.
And I think for one, what they're saying right now is how they're designing the team is like, hey, everything's going to go through Bacon, right? Everything's going to go Bacon.
Yeah, this is a half-court team they're building.
Correct. And everything's going to be around Bacon. We're going to go inside. We're going to go out. I think that's how he originally designed the team to be. We saw how dominant Bacon can be. So I like what he's doing with regard to how he's putting the team together. So we'll see. I think he's going to work good for Carolina, and I don't think Carolina is going to depend on him to be the scorer that Stanford wanted him to be.
Right. Oh, definitely. Definitely not. A lot of pressure will be off of him. Agreed. All right, Jake. So as you thought would happen, pretty much all the Utah State guys are moving on to VCU. The next 2 transfers to come in, these are also starters for Utah State. Max Shulga, the combo guard from the Ukraine, and Sean Bairstow, who's kind of a stretch 3, stretch 4 from Australia. His brother was a 4-5, played a little bit in the NBA. And his name escapes me. He was
Cameron Bairstow.
Cameron. He was the first player I ever scouted.
Really?
Yeah, I did that for NBADraft.net. First player they ever gave to me to scout. So those early days of scouting, you're very nervous and you don't know if you know what the hell you're talking about, and so I remember that well. But anyway, so. Good for VCU. They seem to be. They should have a solid squad this year in the A10. Don't you think?
Yeah, I think so. Like I said, Ryan Odom was probably behind Rick Pitino was my favorite hire the whole offseason. But I mean, he's terrific. But he's going to bring, like I said, a totally different brand of basketball to VCU. But for him to get some of those guys who are quality starters on a tournament team in the Mountain West in a very good conference to come over to the A10, who had a down year, who. I think maybe could have another down year if you look at some of the teams, and VCU could actually see themselves still in the mix for the top spot. To get 2 floor spacers is big. They've also brought in a bunch of transfers. They got Jason Nelson from Richmond, which is really, really dirty business, I guess, considering that University of Richmond and VCU are separated by like 5 miles or something like that.
Right.
And they literally
it's kind of like Cincinnati and Xavier.
Yeah, pretty much. And they're in, them being in the same conference too. Richmond and VCU is pretty cool. But they stole him from down the street. They got Roosevelt Wheeler from Louisville.
Yeah, and he's a big man.
And they look. That's what you got. You need some size. You got to have guys that are going to grab rebounds in there when your shooters miss. So, getting Roosevelt Wheeler's big, and also they're apparently the leaders in the clubhouse for Efton Reed as well. So that's another guy to keep your eye on for VCU.
Okay, but I can't see Wheeler and Reed coexisting.
They would probably just play back to back. I think after the year.
Yeah, but why would these 2 former high recruits? Why would they want to be on the same team together? That's what I never get when these guys do this.
Yeah, I think they actually played together on the same AAU team, and that's why that's part of this.
Well, Reed, Reed, he has the body that he could play a 4 if he had a shot. So maybe that's a plan. Maybe he has a shot that we just haven't seen.
But I'll send you the article if I can find it. But it's Roosevelt Wheeler, Efton Reed. I think maybe Jason Nelson was in that. There's 3 or 4 guys that they're all targeting that played for the same AU team that they all want to bring into the same class this year.
Nice.
So that's part of it. So I don't think VCU's done, but like I said, Ryan Odom's damn good. You drop him anywhere. He's an East Coast guy. You dropped him in Logan, Utah, and he succeeded there. It was really good. Right. This guy's going to win anywhere he goes. It's not going to take him very long on the East Coast. On an area he's familiar with, to win at VCU, and he's showing that already. Right.
All right, let's talk about Kentucky. Bad week for Kentucky. Damian Collins was on the show last summer. Ultra athletic forward that really did not get a lot of playing time, but when he did, he flashed. Booney is aware, Keon Brooks, who went to Washington. Booney, I know you were in love with Brooks's athleticism. I think Collins' athleticism is even superior to Brooks. CJ Frederick is leaving to go to Cincinnati. He's the sharpshooter who hasn't really been the same since he left Iowa. And Xavier Wheeler is transferring to Washington, will join Keon Brooks there. And when I think of Washington, I think that's where transfers go to die.
That's a good call.
Yeah.
I really think I don't even remember Boeheim's disciple who coaches there. What's his name?
Mike Hopkins.
Yeah, I really think Mike Hopkins has got to go, or actually get time. It's not the 50s anymore. Let's play real basketball. So any comments about Kentucky losing these three? All of them were starters at different times, especially Wheeler. Well, Frederick started a lot this year. Obviously, go ahead, Boone.
It has a lot to do with the recruits they got coming in. I think Kentucky has probably the best recruiting class in the country.
Right.
3 or 4 of the top 10, top 100s coming in.
Yeah, this is always an issue for the guys who decide to stay in Kentucky. They're just worried about getting pushed to the end of the bench. I will say that none of these guys they all had off years.
Correct.
And we really haven't seen Collins yet actually be given a true chance to stay on the court and succeed. I think if he goes to a place that's good and structured, but yet gives him the freedom to play 25 minutes a game and not worried about getting yanked the first time he makes a mistake, I think he will thrive.
Yeah, with Collins, I was reading something the other day from like Lexington. It was like the Lexington Herald or the Lexington whatever. And I guess he also had I think he had a family member pass away. I think it was like a grandfather.
Yeah. Yes.
Yeah, and I think that they were saying the projection was he wants to head back to Texas to just be close. So I mean, obviously there's a lot of different programs in there, and I mean his athletic pedigree is there. So it'd be very interesting to see where he ends up at. I mean, I know.
Well, Texas would actually be a perfect fit because they're losing so many guys to graduation, and then you throw in the 5-star point guard whose name is escaping me right now.
Ontario Morris is heading out the door.
Ontario Morris is surprisingly left. Texas would have arguably had the best backcourt in the country if he sticks around. For two guards. But anyway, all right. So we'll move on to Texas, and they landed their center. They've always loved their big men down in Texas. Caden Shedrick goes down there from Virginia. He had a hard time getting consistent playing time, despite actually being really, really productive. It seemed like they finally decided to, hey, Shedrick's our guy. We're gonna play him toward the end of the season, but apparently he doesn't trust Tony Bennett to stick with that. So he's off to Texas. I think he's a really good player with pro potential.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think that's a great signing by Texas.
Yeah, I think him and Dylan Dessou is going to be. Yeah, him and Dylan Dessou will be a nasty front court. Yeah, that's a lot of athleticism.
Much. And I think Damian Collins would fit right in as well because I think Collins he doesn't have the jumper right now. But I think he could even play he's athletic enough to play the 3. What a front court that would be. The biggest one in the country, probably. All right. So Johan Traore is going from Auburn. He's a 4-star. He's an international guy who was highly regarded overseas and also highly regarded a 4-star in our recruiting services. He's going to UCSB, a team that made the NCAA tournament next year. And everybody really on that team, I think, their key pieces are coming back. I think UCSB is going to be a force next year. What do you think, Booney?
I think Johan's a genius. I mean, I don't see, who would want to go to Santa Barbara? I don't understand how some of these schools like a Santa Barbara, why a lot of these kids wouldn't want to go to. Great weather. The nice small university. They play in a good conference.
And he's going to be on the best team in that conference.
He's going to be on the best team in that conference. I think it's a great fit for him. And I'm surprised more kids from the portal don't go to schools such as Santa Barbara, don't go to schools like a USD, an Irvine, that sort of thing, where it's a nice atmosphere. But
I just hope Santa Barbara has enough good teams on their schedule preseason that if they have a season like Florida Atlantic, it doesn't come down. They're on the bubble. If they're in if they win their tournament or lose. I hate that. You have like a team that's 30-3, but they might not make the tournament, because I think that's where that team's headed. So, like a 30-3 record, but damn it, play some, even if you lose, those games actually boost you. If you lose to a Kentucky, you lose to a Duke, but you don't get blown out, that will help you in the net. So,
well, I mean, they didn't play anybody this year. I followed them because there's a kid on that team that played against a team that my dad had. He was it was Miles Norris, was at Oregon.
Miles Norris is an excellent player.
He kicked back to the San Francisco junior college at a city college, San Francisco, played against a team my dad was coaching at the JUCO level, was a force, and then it was at Santa Barbara last year and this year.
Yeah.
So I followed them. And
Miles Norris is a former top 50 recruit.
Top 50 recruit. And he was really good for them this year. He's 50% from the field. I think he averaged like 15 and 7 or something like that. They just didn't play anybody.
Excellent from 3. I mean, another guy who has pro potential.
Yeah,
he's getting up there in years, but this is his last year, and he's definitely on our radar. He's not in our top 200, but he's in our top 300. So yeah. All right. Avery Anderson, as Jake predicted, is moving on to TCU. One of the fastest, in my opinion, one of the fastest guards in the country, and will certainly fit that up and down style TCU likes to play. Have any other thoughts about that, Jake?
Can Jamie Dixon recruit someone who could shoot? Like, that would be awesome.
Yes, Avery Anderson cannot shoot, but he can definitely get up and down the court.
I mean, he had 2 years. I mean, on that Cade Cunningham team, he was big. And he was big on offense for them. They missed him this year when he missed time, and their offense was pretty bad when Avery Anderson was out of lineup in some games towards the end of the season. But he had 2 years, the year after COVID, and then last season where he shot a little over 32%, but even still, like, that would honestly be one of the best shooters on TCU's team.
Right.
When you look this year, he was hurt, played in 22 games.
He either I believe he fractured his wrist.
Yeah, he had a wrist injury. So, but he only shot 18% this year. Now it's not on nearly as many attempts as he had the year before, but still, like, he's fast. He'll get up and down. He can steal, like, he can exactly what Jamie Dixon wants to do. Let's run up and down. Let's not let the other defense get set, because we don't really have the shooters to be able to hang with them.
Right.
But he still can't shoot. There's a guy that you're bringing in. It's awesome. He's very fast. He'll fit what you want to do, but it still doesn't solve your shooting issues here.
Right. Well, there's still plenty of shooters out there in the portal, so we'll see. All right. So speaking of that same dilemma, and we talked about it last week when we talked about two Tennessee players coming in, recruits coming in, not recruits, but transfers coming in. And one of the things we said is these guys are coming to Tennessee, but they can't shoot. Well, you know what? A day or two after we said that, they went out and got a shooter in Dalton Necht from, Northern Colorado. And this guy can fill it up. Averaged 20.2 points per game this year, along with 7.2 rebounds, shot 38% from 3, 77% from the foul line. I really like this signing. I thought he was one of the big sleepers out there. There's some schools that I talked to, they asked me, my opinion, if we're looking for this, who would you look at? And I would always throw out next name as like, if you want to score, a guy can fill it up. This is the guy to look at. So I think that's a great signing by Tennessee. Anybody have opinion there?
Agreed.
Yeah, that's what they need. Offense has been their Achilles heel for how many years now? So a guy who can space the floor, kind of a must-have.
And they'll still have Vescovy too.
Yeah, exactly.
So, because Tyreek Key didn't turn out to be the player we thought he was. All right, so some other transfers. We have Deshaun Ruffin, former four-star, a great little dynamic guard for Ole Miss, is going to Jackson State. Daniel Bacho, the shot-blocking center for Texas Tech, is moving on to Louisiana Tech. Javon Small, Oklahoma State, as we noted last week, is losing a lot of players. This is, I think, their first key signing, if I'm not mistaken. Javon had his season cut short, and he's only a sophomore. He suffered a season-ending injury, but, man, he was having a great season, at least as a shooter. I guess he dropped off. He was at one point, but I'm looking at his shooting splits now. They did drop off somewhat, but still for a sophomore, he threw in 16 points per game, shooting 40% from the floor, 33 from deep, and 85 from the line. Also threw in 4.8 rebounds a game and 5.6 assists. So you're getting a point guard that can score, and it looks like, he's got to improve his efficiency, and he probably will be able to do that on a better team with a better surrounding cast. Cam Hayes started off at NC State, then went to LSU last year, played pretty well for them. He is going to be replacing Small at East Carolina at point guard. So Puff Johnson, the oft-injured brother of Cam Johnson, younger brother, is going from North Carolina to Penn State. Posh Alexander, formerly of St. John's, is going to Butler. You guys have any comments on those 6 guys I just threw out there?
So I'll start with Cam Hayes. Nothing too much, but hey, like East Carolina, year 2 for Michael Schwartz. He's gonna have Cam Hayes. He's gonna have Bobby Pettiford Jr. Pretty good upgrade from what they had this year.
Yeah.
Temple was able to beat them twice, but I don't know if that's going to be the case next year.
Yeah, but that's a nice A10 backcourt for sure.
AAC.
Oh, right.
I wish you put words in my mouth. I wish Temple would be in the A10 and they would forget about football, but I'm just talking to a brick wall at that point. They're not going to listen to me.
Right.
But behind Ryan Odom and Patino, I really like Mike Rhodes at Penn State. They got Puff Johnson, and then today they got Kudus Wahab from Georgetown, his second tenure at Georgetown. He's actually putting together a pretty nice roster, I got to say, at Penn State. He got a couple guys to stay back. He got some VCU guys to transfer in. He got Zach Hicks from Temple. He got Puff Johnson here. He got Kudus Wahab. I think he's actually putting together a really nice team. And then, look, Butler, they lost a ton of guys, but to add Bosch in there, I really didn't like St. John's at all last year. I thought their shot selection was terrible. The way they played just wasn't conducive to winning. You ever watch a tennis match and they show the crowd and simultaneously everybody just kind of moves their head at the same time? That's like what a St. John's game was. They're just flying up and down the court. The shot selection's terrible at times.
Yeah.
But for him to go to Butler, moving conference here in the Big East, and Dad Mott is going to get one of the best on-ball defenders in the sport.
Right. And he's a great playmaker too.
Yeah. I just don't like the team he was on. I just wasn't.
No, him and Cabello were not good fits because neither of them could shoot. Yeah.
Speaking of Cabello, that guy, oh my God, he was a turnover machine at times last year.
I don't even turnover machine his whole career.
Yeah, he wasn't. I don't think he's been picked up yet by anybody.
No, he is not.
You watch him sometimes in the head. Like he's fast. He's exciting when he's exciting.
He's a brilliant passer. I mean, in terms of he can make amazing passes, but he also can make some of the dumbest mistakes.
Yeah. Like in theory, it was a good idea to play him at a fast pace where he'd be able to get up and down and throw passes. Right. Oh my God! I would watch him, and even when they played Villanova, I'd be like, "Oh my God, dude, what are you doing?" Some of these passes are just ridiculous.
Yeah, agreed. All right, so Vanderbilt apparently is losing their best player to either the draft or to the portal because Trin Lawrence, their sharpshooting shooting guard, is put his name in the portal and is an early entry into the draft. Speaking of the draft, Ray J. Dennis announced yesterday if he does not stay in the draft, he will transfer from Toledo. Ray, of course, was on the show just a couple of weeks ago. So he is now also in the portal. and rumored to, at least right now, it seems like Illinois is the forerunner, but he hasn't even given up on the draft yet. So I think it's still early days to make any real predictions there. And then Tafara Gapari, is it, am I saying that right? Or Gapari? Gapara. He is a former 4-star, was a freshman this year at UMass, apparently didn't like Frank Martin or something of that nature, who knows. He did not have a great year, wasn't very good at all, but this is a kid that has a lot of potential, nice size, 6'9", 215. He's Australian, New Zealand. He was born in Australia. He's a New Zealand national. So it would be interesting to see how he does. Georgia Tech has surprisingly, for losing their coach, is surprisingly getting some pickups from all over the country. So they're not looking bad without Josh Pastner. Now, something that Booney and I have talked about before is, with the portal, you don't have enough seats on the bus. And so Darian Ford and Barry Dunning are leaving Arkansas. They were part of that huge recruiting class last year. Both of them played sparingly, but I think they played enough not to be able to redshirt. So I believe they'll be sophomores. They are leaving Arkansas, destination yet to be announced. And before I move on, you guys got any comments about the guys I just mentioned? Lawrence, Dennis, Gapari? Am I saying that right?
Yeah, Gapari.
Yeah, Gapari.
Okay.
I mean, just in terms of the Arkansas whole situation in general, I think that it sucks because I think we're going to see an increase of teams just kind of shuffling through kids so quickly now. Like, you're in 1 minute and then you're out the next. If these guys are willing to take a page out of like a Torore's book and go look at like a UC Santa Barbara, look at some of these other programs, it could actually balance out even further. And I think there's parity in college basketball. But like, imagine if these guys who are recruited to these high majors decide, you know what? Instead of being a Damian Collins situation where I'm just not playing, maybe I'm going to pack up and I'm going to go to a Santa Clara. That's what Podazemski did.
Or even a K-State.
Or a K-State. Or
some place that doesn't get the 4 or 5 stars regularly.
Yeah. Go be the guy on that team. And like, there's so many great conferences. And I think what we're seeing, is the Big East has shown us this. You don't have to go play in the ACC to go be in a great, they're basically a Power 5, Power 6 when it comes to basketball. But like, you can go play in these other conferences. Like, go be in the WCC, go be the guy, and then start building cultures and teams there. It's going to balance out college basketball. It potentially. I just think maybe guys are going to start to realize that.
Look at Maxwell Lewis. Now, he was a Pepperdine product from start to finish, but you certainly get found, just like we talked about last week with Jonathan Pierre, if you do well, he said it, Jake said it, and Jake knows a reporter from the Philadelphia Inquirer, who's saying it. You don't have to, as long as you play well, they will find you.
Jalen Williams is a prime example. From Santa Clara last year. Brandon, like I said, from Santa Clara this year. It's just a local school. I've seen them play. I go watch them play all the time.
Or the guy who's now, considered pretty much a lock to at least be a second-round pick.
Podazemski. Brandon. I just saw those guys play in person.
Yeah. You just saw them play?
Or not something. I've seen them play. I've seen them play in person. They're 25, 30.
By the way, I inquired about getting Brandon on the show with Santa Clara because we had Jalen Williams last year. And apparently he's already hooked up with an agent. They don't think he's going to come back to school. And so their hands are tied as far as getting me in touch with them. So, but he said he would try. He said he was going to try to pass our information along, see if we can get him on the show because of us, Jalen Williams got the lottery. Let's be honest here.
I just think it could be good for college basketball, man. Like you see with we just talked about Miles Norris. Didn't work out at Oregon. Ends up at Santa Barbara, is playing really well, got into the tournament. Like I just think some of these guys should maybe realize, hey, I don't have to play on the Kentucky. I don't have to play at a Duke. I can go be the guy somewhere else and probably build your stock.
It's just kind of funny. Just about everybody from that huge recruiting class Arkansas has will now be gone.
We're gone. Yeah, they're drafted and
Gone.
transferred.
One year and done, including Ford and Dunning, who were both, I believe, top 100 recruits. I know at least one was, and the other one was certainly close to being top 100. All right, so the last transfers we're going to talk about, and not all of these guys are recent. I just noticed a pattern here. Will Wade at McNeese, formerly known as McNeese State. Now they just want to be called McNeese. So Will Wade is still a master at recruiting. At McNeese, he's brought in Shada Wells from TCU, Mike Saunders from Utah, formerly of Cincinnati, CJ Felder, formerly of BC and Florida, and Zach Harvey, who was a top 50 recruit not so long ago. Zach played 2 years at Cincinnati. Then he had 2 quiet years at UCSB, I think because of injury. So I don't know. Jake, do you know the red shirt rule? Can you red shirt more than once? You have to get a waiver, right?
You got to get a medical and a regular red shirt, but you can't.
Right.
So there's a green shirt too. So.
He's has 2 years at UCSB where he barely played. So actually 1 year he didn't. So that must have been in his red shirt. And then last year he only played 5 games. So I don't know if he can get a red shirt for last year too. So I'm not sure how much eligibility he has left, but he at least has 2 more years. So and like I said, former top 50 recruit who's never really gotten the playing time. He should at McNeese, and we'll see what happens. Any comments on the Will Wade collecting other people's castaways, but looking like he might have a pretty damn good team at McNeese, excuse me.
Yeah, they're going to dominate the Southland. They're going to absolutely dominate it. I mean, so now that Steve Watts left Texas A&M Corpus Christi, you have to imagine, I know they hired from within, they hired one of their assistants, but you have to imagine they probably fall off because also like Trey Tennyson is at TCU. They had some guys leave. But this is a bad conference, and it's not really anybody's fault, but when Stephen F. Austin, Abilene Christian, I think it was Lamar and Sam Houston State all decided to leave the Southland for the WAC, they didn't add anybody. So it's really just these 8 teams, none of which were perennial powerhouses. And now you have Will Wade in here who knows how to recruit. Shahade Wells was getting quality minutes at TCU, and there was he had almost 20 points maybe in the Kansas game or 17. One that really helped them win that game at Allen Fieldhouse. And you get a bunch of Power 5 guys. They're going to dominate this conference. Yeah, they are going to dominate it.
I actually thought Felder was going to have a breakout year for Florida, but he didn't mix in well with the new coaching staff and all the new players coming in. But he was really promising at Boston College. Saunders got regular minutes with Cincinnati for a long time, but Utah didn't really play him much. So you have all these guys that are hungry for minutes. I expect to see him in the NCAA tournament.
Absolutely.
All right, so let's move on to the draft. Now, I will say, instead of saying this guy is testing the waters, this guy's testing the waters, just about everybody on this list, except for the first 2 I'm going to talk about, are testing the waters, except for one exception, which we'll get to at the very end. Amoni Bates, I contacted Eastern Michigan because it sounded like in his statement that he wasn't coming back. But he didn't officially say that. And so I contacted Eastern Michigan. I have a relationship with them. And they said, we don't know either. And we've been trying to reach out to them. And we'll get back to you if he ever gets back to us. So that right in there kind of says he's not coming back. So I think Amoni Bates is definitely in the draft to stay. The next guy is Drew Timme. Now, we are going on, at least I am, and maybe Drew or Booney could add some more to this. Yes, we all assumed that he would be gone after this year. And yes, he did make comments in February, late February to be exact, 27th, I believe. He made comments that he's directly said, I'm not coming back after the season. Of course, that was, still mid-season. So we haven't heard anything since. Drew didn't make any kind of fancy announcements on Twitter or anything else. His name just showed up the day the NBA released the official list for early entries. So, gentlemen, is Drew Timme gone for sure?
I'm going to say yes. Now, I don't think if they felt confident that there was even just a decent chance that he was coming back, given how much he means to that community, how dominant he is, I don't think a guy like Graham Ige is coming then. Like, if he had felt there was any indication that Timme could come back, I don't think those two could really play together. I think Ige is supposed to be.
Well, no, you're probably right, because Chad. Yeah, you're right. Yeah,
Chet worked, like Chet and Timme worked because one could shoot, one could block, rim run.
Right.
Ike.
Yeah,
he's a Drew Timme light, and he doesn't defend the rim, and Drew's not a great rim defender.
Right.
So already now, unless he did what Ashibwe has done, and Ashibwe has reached back out, I know that he had given Kentucky his blessing to recruit anybody and everybody. If that means Hunter Dickinson, fine, like not to be beholden to him. So maybe Drew Timme is like, hey, look, get the best guys you can get. Don't wait for me. If a guy's willing to come and he can play, secure him. But I would just to think that the players that they've gotten, particularly with Ike, I don't think Timmy's coming back, and he hasn't made a big flashy announcement, but I could see him doing that once he's officially, like, was it May 31st? Is that the withdrawal date, or what's?
Yes.
Once the withdrawal date passes, then him announcing it. I don't know. It's up in the air, but if I had to bet, I'd say he's not coming back because
I think I think your EK logic is the best indication. Not to mention that he did say it at one point. Maybe he figures I said it once. Why do I have to say it again?
Yeah, and if I mean, the team has brought in 3 transfers that I think are good players, particularly Nembhard being kind of the crown jewel of those 3. But I think all 3 of those guys are like net positives for this team. If he was on the fence and wanted to, like, now would be the time. Like, hey, Nembhard's here, let's run it back. Like, we got a squad. Let's give it one more go around. I don't see him waiting. It doesn't seem, Drew Timme-esque. He's kind of a straight shooter. He said it. I think he means it. He went out with a bang. I mean, he had a hell of a tournament run.
Yep.
So I don't think he's coming back.
Right. So, yes, the deadline for college guys to keep their eligibility and withdraw is May 31st. The absolute deadline is June 12th. So if a college player would say, pull out of the draft on June 1st, he then could go play professional ball for Ignite or in overseas or even overtime elite, I guess. And then he would be automatically in next year's draft. So yeah, that's the deadlines. And for international players, of course, it's June 12th as well. All right. So also Gonzaga's previously mentioned Antoine Watson. And then we have the Creighton trio, Kalkbrenner, Kaluma, and Alexander. All of them apparently testing the waters, but they are all good enough that I think they're all potentially could be drafted if they're in the draft. So, yeah, Creighton's got to be a little nervous, but they still, like I said, everybody else we're going to talk about has not shut the door on college. Another player who could stay in the draft is Kansas State's Keontae Johnson. Of course, we had Keontae on the show around Christmas time, and his teammate, Naquan Tomlin, promising JUCO transfer. I would suspect he's coming back. Just hasn't shown enough other than kind of like a really nice combination of size and athleticism, but I think he needs to do more to get drafted. Miami, Norchad Omier and Nigel Pack threw their names in the draft. That now puts Miami up to 4 of their 5 starters are now in the draft. Of course, Isaiah Wong has said he's not coming back, and Jordan Miller can't come back because he's out of eligibility. Michigan State had 2 players go to the draft, A.J. Hogard and Jaden Atkins. They're 2 of their 3 top guards. So I'm going to stop right there. You have any comments on the Creighton guys, the K-State guys, the Miami guys, or the Michigan State guys?
I would actually like to see the Michigan State guys come back. I think this is going to be Izzo's best team in a while next year. They're adding a bunch of freshmen. They have Xavier Booker coming in, who's one of the best players in that class. They can make a national championship run. I'd actually like to see these guys come back. So if they'll play, they're going to have good guys behind them, but they will play if they come back. And I think this Michigan State team could absolutely win it all and make the Final Four. They're going to have a very, very good team next year.
Very good team.
Yeah.
Creighton's got to be nervous. I think Creighton has the most to lose when you look at, like, if those three don't come back. Yeah, I mean, the Ashworth pickup was great. They are probably the most wild, like the varying. If those three come back, that team is reloaded. Ashworth is a great replacement for Nemhard. You know, if those three don't, man, they're probably sweating bullets over there.
Yeah. I think Kalkbrenner's the most important.
Yeah,
but I think Trey Alexander's probably the second most important. But Kaluma also, he does a little bit of everything, and and he may have the most pro potential of all of them. But I will say, after Keontae Johnson on this list, I believe everyone on this list should come back until we get to the international guys. So with Hogard and Akins, yeah, they're not going to get drafted, so they better come back. All right, moving on down the list. Tyler Burton, who was on the show last summer, has put his name in the draft. Kobe Brown of Missouri, Jalen Bridges of Baylor. And, you could make the argument, for as talented as Baylor was, Bridges by the end of the season was their best player. He was the only player, when they went through that slide at the end of the season, he was the only player really playing consistently well. And the funny part of it is he had a horrendous start to the season. So if you look at his stats, they're like, that's not so impressive. That's because he was awful at the beginning and really good at the end. Bridges is ultra athletic. He's a good defender, spotty shooter. He's a good, good around the rim, very athletic. But again, I think he should come back. I'm going to read off a couple more, and then if you guys have comments, let me know. Pelle Larson is put his name in, and I will say about Azuas Tubelis, who we talked about either last week or the week before. A lot of people have him listed as not coming back to school. That I talked to officials at Arizona, and they say that's absolutely false. He's testing the waters. So Tubelis could be back. A couple other really good players that are promising, but I still think need more. Miles Kelly of Georgia Tech, he was their leading scorer. He's a scoring wing. And Keisei, he's his Japanese name, so Tamanaga. Keisei Tamanaga of Nebraska. If you ever get a chance to watch this guy play, it's absolutely fun. He's a little dynamic scoring guard, can really fill it up from the outside. So again, should come back to school. So with Burton, Brown, Bridges, Larson, Kelly, Tamanaga, you guys got any thoughts?
I would like to see Burton hit the portal. I like Burton a lot, and I think he was at a more of a Power 5 school. It's going to get a lot more attention, and that would definitely up his draft stock. But I think he's a hell of a player. I think playing at Richmond, where he was basically the focal point of that offense, hurt him a little bit. But I think he has a great upside. He's going to be a hell of a player.
Yeah, and, I agree, because the year before they were loaded, and they beat Iowa in the tournament, but they lost everybody but Burton, and they really didn't bring anything of significance in. So it was like him against the world this year. And I don't see Richmond doing I haven't seen them do anything significant so far in terms of recruiting or the portal. So I think he's looking at another season like that. Now, keep in mind, a lot of these guys will do exactly that. Once they figure out, hey, I'm still not in draft range, I'm going to go someplace else. And I think you'll see that with Grant Nelson. And I think, Booney, you bring up a great point. I think Tyler Burton's another prime candidate to see that.
Yeah, I'm right. I'm right with Booney here. They lost Gilliard. They lost Nathan Kay, or they lost Grant Golden from that team, and they brought in Neil Quinn from Lafayette, who's a big center in the middle. But outside of that, and then you look at even like some of the guys they brought in have left.
Mhm.
They're not even there anymore. Some of the guys that they brought in, like you, Jason Nelson, that goes across town to VCU, like they're losing guys. Unfortunately, Chris Mooney had a heart issue and he had to get surgery, missed the last couple games of the year. I have to imagine he's not very active on the recruiting trail right now. Maybe that kind of affects things, but I agree with Booney 100%. I like his game. He's athletic. He's smooth. He can shoot the three well. He's got really good length and size for a wing. I'd like to see him do it, or at least prove that he can do it more consistently at a higher level.
Right. And it would also be nice to see, if he had a little support, as he did 2 years ago. Rounding out the list, we have Isaiah Miranda, who was a top 50 recruit, joined NC State midseason, never saw the court. So he redshirted this year. He's a big, skinny 7-footer. He's put his name in the draft, but I have been told that he is just testing the waters, which would make sense because he hasn't really proven himself and certainly doesn't really have the body right now to compete in the NBA or even the G League. He's very skinny for a 7-footer. Eric Gaines from UAB is testing the waters. And I found that out from UAB themselves today when I was inquiring about interviewing Jelly Walker, who will most likely be with us next week. You got that, Booney? Jelly's coming on. Jelly's coming on.
Yeah.
And last but not least, or maybe he is least, Marcus Bagley, the brother of the NBA player who has barely played at Arizona State. And also ran into trouble with Danny Hurley this year. He got kicked off the team for a while, and then I'm not sure if he ever actually was allowed back. We just didn't hear from him from December on. He is in the draft. I don't even.
He's played 17 games.
Yeah, 17 games in 3 years. And he was also at one point a 5-star, but he dropped to a 4-star because he missed most of his senior season in high school with injuries. So I didn't have the balls to ask Arizona State, is Marcus Bagley staying in the draft? Because they're going to say, who cares?
Who cares?
So obviously he hasn't done enough on the court from a guy who was once considered a potential first-round pick. He's a little different than Marvin in the way in the fact that he's a better shooter. Obviously Marvin's his older brother. I hope that he lands someplace and comes back to school and gets his act together, stays healthy, and gets a full season in, and then I think he might be back on people's draft radar. Grant Basile. We talked about Grant a lot actually over the last 2 weeks. Not a lot, but he keeps on coming up. He also is an early entry. Now, I thought he was going to play in Italy for a year and then automatically be in next year's draft, but he put his name in this year's draft. Now, I don't know if he's going to keep it in, but here would be the strategy. You do enhance your draft stock automatically when they know you are willing to be a draft and stash. And that might be his thinking right here, because that's what he would be. He would be a draft and stash guy because he's already signed a contract in Italy and they know he's willing to play in Italy and he's ready to play in Italy. So, yeah. I thought that was interesting. Any comments on Miranda, Gaines, Bagley, or Basile? All right.
It's interesting what Grant Basile's doing because I think does he have another year that he wants?
Yeah. That's why he's on this list, because he's an early entry. He has his 5th year.
It's interesting, but hey, you now you don't have to worry about school. You can go play basketball overseas. You can get paid real money for it, and then yeah, I mean it's something I guess a lot of people aren't willing to do. But in the long run, hey, if it helps him get drafted, it helps him make some more money and play over here. Definitely a good decision for him. But it's interesting because I feel like I don't see too many people do this.
The last guy I know did it was the kid from San Diego State, the big, powerful wing. Played kind of like had a game like a power forward, but he was a wing. He was kind of built like Matt Bradley. He played with him. I think his last year was the year that they had that, like they went 30-3 or whatever in COVID year, I think.
Was it Matt Mitchell or Johnny
Yes,
Wetzel?
yes, yeah. It was Mitchell. Yeah, Mitchell went and signed with France before the draft and put his name as an early entry. And but his also Oscar da Silva did it too out of Stanford. So yeah, it's not about one guy a year seems to be doing it of late. All right. So then the big international guys that got on, we talked about 3 or 4 of them last week, and of course Victor Wembanyama was on the early entry list. There were 4 other guys that we hadn't previously mentioned that I believe are all have very serious shot to be second round picks. And some of it might depend on if they say they're willing to be a draft and stash, because that's far more attractive to NBA teams to have them develop while getting paid by somebody else. And they are Tristan Vucevic from Partizan, Usman Njai from Baskonia, Nikola Duricic from KK Mega in the Adriatic League, and Nadir Heafy from La Porte in France. The highest one I have on our draft board is Tristan Vucevic. So I won't talk about all these guys, but I will talk about him because obviously Wembanyama's number 1 on our draft board, but I meant out of the rest that we talked about today. He's 20 years old, 7 foot, 230 pounds. He can stretch the floor. This year he has played all over the place, which isn't uncommon in Europe to play in multiple leagues. So he's played in the Adriatic League. He's played in Euro League, which is the best of all leagues in Europe. And also did a little bit in the Serbian Super Cup and the VTB Super Cup, which is kind of a Russian is it Baltic? What's the region down there with Montenegro and Ukraine? Is that that's the Baltic?
I think that's Baltic, yeah.
That's the Baltic, and the Balkans are Poland and up there, right? So I think that's a Baltic league. So altogether, with most of his action coming in the Adriatic League, he's averaged a modest 12 minutes per game, but it's his shooting splits that are nice. 56 from the floor, 38% from deep, and 80% from the foul line. His per for the season is 19.6, which is very good for a 20-year-old playing in the Adriatic League and Euro League. Admittedly, limited minutes, but those are impressive numbers. So he's the guy I would probably think has the most upside of the group, but I think all of the players that I mentioned are possible second round picks, which, by the way, we will be looking into the international players in more detail in the coming weeks. So going over them, over their games, what their strengths, weaknesses are, and so forth. Any comments on the international guys? All right. So the best guy on our draft board, the highest ranked guy on our draft board who didn't declare for the draft was Kyle Filipowski. And we found out why. He had some hip injuries. It required surgery, not major surgery, but surgery. So he wasn't 100%. So I don't know how much that contributed, but he did undergo surgery recently. And I just thought that was worthy of noting since he was the highest guy on our draft board by far, not to declare in this draft. Another note, this came from Mike DeCourcy. I saw this, at least him tweet this out. Xavier Johnson was granted a medical hardship waiver. He was due to come out, automatically be in the draft, but he applied for a waiver because he got hurt relatively early in the season, and they gave it to him, and he will be able to play for the Hoosiers next year. Now, on to our favorite basketball program of all time. We have Alabama, and they lost their top incoming recruit in Jaykwon Walton from Wichita State. He was a former, I believe, top 75 recruit. Had good decent season at Wichita State this year, and he had committed to Alabama. By the way, Hofstra's, help me out, Jake. Hofstra's Aaron Estrada, really, really good player. Probably in the low 300s on our draft board. He has committed to Alabama, and I think we mentioned that last week. So he and Walton were their two prize recruits. Well, Walton is not going to be going to Alabama because he was arrested with a gun and marijuana and all that good stuff. So my question to you guys is, how does this happen? Is this coincidence, just bad luck on Alabama's fault, or do we see a pattern here?
I hate to say it, we might be seeing a pattern here. Now it's tough because they actually got Jaykwon Walton like relatively early. He was either during the tournament or right after the tournament. Like I felt like he was one of the first guys to commit somewhere. But yeah, I mean, it's certainly not a good look. And then here's the thing: Nate Oates has to come out and say, "Yeah, he's no longer a part of our program and no longer being recruited," because he couldn't say nothing else would blow over well. He had to ask him. And basically say he wasn't a part of the program anymore, because there's a zero tolerance policy right now with the outsiders in looking at Alabama.
At a certain point, it's going to fall on the kid. You know, I hear what you're saying as far as the program and so forth, but after a while, there's only so much you can blame on the program, and look at actually what happened. At a certain point, it's on the kid, and I think that this is one of those examples where it's on the kid. And the kids are at the point where they feel like they can get away with just about anything, because the culture right now is coaches are literally trying to hang on to the kid rather than, the other way around. The leverage is with the student athlete right now versus 10 years ago or even 5 years ago, where the leverage was more on the program, on the coaches.
Yeah. Well, I think it's interesting that they went through, they obviously tandem, he's off the program, and there's like this, they came out with this like really hard zero tolerance policy. Not a one-to-one example, but it just kind of is interesting how they were so quick and very like to the point with this punishment. And then we had the whole issue earlier in the year where they just continuously danced around it. And I guess it is different when you're in season and you're primed to make a run in the tournament versus you're in the off season, things have died down for you. But it's just kind of interesting that one situation was handled so swiftly. They were point blank, like Jake said, came out and were like, we're not recruiting him. He's off the team. He's not a part of this program. And another one where it was kind of just dancing around it, hoping that it's going to blow over, get to the tournament, and, people maybe will stop talking about it. I just thought that was interesting.
A little hypocrisy, maybe.
Yeah, 100%. A little hypocritical.
Here's the thing that's driving me crazy, is it didn't happen far from where the Brandon Miller incident did. It wasn't like this kid was in his hometown right. It happened in Tuscaloosa. So he's already in Alabama, and it happened. So what I want to know is, who pays attention to what these kids are up to? who looks into what kind of kids they are? I mean, they brought in Quinterly, who Jake knows does not have a pristine character. They brought in Miller, who was a 20-year-old freshman, which is an indication that something is wrong somewhere, because some kids actually graduate college at 20 years old, and he's just starting college at 20 years old. Okay, so and then of course you have Miles, who was acting a fool and had a gun on campus, but nobody knew, and then Miller and Jaden Bradley get drug into it, and now you bring in this guy, and you couldn't tell that you didn't do any research, or you couldn't. Are you telling me maybe there's something in the air in Alabama that
think about this.
Be bad. Is that what it is?
Alabama, like that culture, and I actually have friends that have gone. I know somebody that's still there. I've never been. I'm not a fan of the program. I didn't go there, but in terms of just like the power that the athletes have, I don't know if there's a school, a program where it's more just. I mean, you think Alabama, the only thing you think of is Alabama football, Alabama basketball. I mean, it's just that's literally what the entire school is based around, to the point where I think Oates has probably just sold his soul. He's like, who's going to give me a national title? Who's going to help me get there? I mean, we see it in pro sports all the time. The Dallas Cowboys will take anybody. I mean, Alvin Kamara beat a guy near to death in an elevator and played an entire NFL season, and people aren't really talking about that. And I think Alabama is just a microcosm of that. And it's just the most like generally toxic sports culture, probably in college, in terms of just like fans don't care. They just want to win. And it's probably like the dark side of like just wanting to win and wanting to, be so sports centric. That's probably the dark side of it, of just like, who's going to help me get that title? Who can I bring in that can I deal with them for 5 months, 6 months? They win and I can then they're out the door.
You know who wants to win? Duke. Doesn't happen at Duke.
I totally agree.
You know who wants to win? Villanova. It doesn't happen at Villanova. You know who
totally
wants
agree.
to win? Notre Dame. Doesn't happen at Notre Dame. You know who wants to win? Gonzaga. It doesn't happen at Gonzaga.
But I think it's because those guys, though, like those coaches are not willing to cross that line. I think Alabama is.
That's my whole freaking point here.
Yeah, that's what it boils down to.
Is that Nate Oates and the rest of those people don't give a rat's ass about who they're bringing in. They're just going to bring in anybody and everybody, and they're not doing background checks. They're not doing character checks, and they're certainly not keeping up with what these kids are up to.
Yeah, no, 100%. I mean, I've heard horror stories. I've heard horror stories from when I was doing the football recruiting side at Stanford, and I'm like, from when I had coworkers that have been at like other big schools, and just the things you hear that these kids were getting away with and doing on campus on recruiting visits. They weren't even there yet, just to get them in the door. The things that they were letting them do, you're like, holy crap, you were letting them do what? And then they get there and they do end up being a good player. They did not matter. They could have killed somebody. They could have murdered someone. Wait,
they already did that.
I know. And they're like people saying like it wouldn't have. They would have found a way to navigate it.
Yeah,
they would have found a way to weasel out of it. No, I agree. It's so wrong.
And now if I say something like, well, Alabama's program's not looking very very good shape right now. That's all I said. I didn't say anything else. And I get all kinds of comments and it gets retweeted all kinds of times just because I said Alabama's not going to be very good.
It's because the fans have accepted that.
I didn't even say it was because people are avoiding, or maybe I did. Maybe I did talk about the people that were leaving and not coming in.
Yeah. It's just the culture. Like the fans have accepted. Like it's just the entire culture there just seems so off. Like it's not just the school condones it. Like I don't know if you guys saw, but like when this was all going down, there were people wearing shirts to the tournament saying like shooting our way with a crosshairs like to the Final Four or
no way.
Oh yeah, like it wasn't everywhere. I'm not saying everyone. I don't want to lump every single person who's ever rooted for Alabama, but like just shameless stuff, like in public, walking around with shirts saying stuff like that. And I'm like, what the hell? And those are the most vocal people. Those are the vocal ones who, horrible stuff. And I'm sure every fan has ravenous people that go too far, but I just feel like there's something going on there, and it goes from the top all the way down to the fans. It's just off. It's just off.
So let's play devil's advocate here. Let's put ourselves in like Nate Oates' shoes. And I think while Alabama's getting the attention right now, and I think there's a good number of programs that are doing the absolute same thing, right? Turning the other way with regard to a kid. Nate Oates is
but are they turning the other way when it comes to guns? That's the thing. I don't mind if you turn the other way when it comes to smoking pot or drinking, but guns?
Maybe. Player's character or whatever it may be, and maybe that is guns as well. We don't know that. But let's put ourselves in Nate Oates' shoes and any other individual that's running a program like that. Nate Oates is making whatever, $1.5 to $2 million a year.
Oh, he's making more than that.
North of that.
Wait.
If Nate Oates doesn't win, he's getting fired. Okay? Where's that put Nate Oates? What's he going to do next? Where's his career go? How is he exactly going to earn money? Where does his salary go? So, and again, I'm playing devil's advocate. I'm not saying it's right what's going on, but I am trying to put myself in their shoes. If I am at a mid-major college and my job was to win and get to the next level where my salary and my lifestyle gets to a certain point, and if that means I am going to take a player of less character because a Duke, a UCLA, and Arizona, whoever cannot deal with them, don't want them, and that kid's going to help me win games, I'm going to take it. Is it right? I don't know. But these guys are getting a numerous number of guys like that. They're getting
That's
10
my
of
whole
them.
point. That's my whole point.
Knowing that 2 or 3 are going to fall off. So they're playing the percentages in that situation in order to advance their own career. And again, I'm looking at it from the other side of things, from Nate Oates' shoes or other coaches in that similarity. And I don't know if we're in that exact same position. And there was that much money that was being left on the table for us to put in our own pockets. I don't know if we wouldn't do the same exact thing.
I just think there's an element of he's putting himself almost, though, like with this back-to-back, like I also view it as he's almost putting himself in between a rock and a hard place, though. Because like if he gets so deep into those weeds of the character and he's still not winning, like let's say they don't win next year and maybe Alabama says, screw it, the publicity is too bad, we're not winning, it's not working, they pull the plug. Like, has he almost backed himself into a position where is anyone else going to want to deal with this guy? Like,
No.
Have you gone so deep into the weeds where it's like, it doesn't work at Alabama? Look, it's sports. I'm sure somebody will take the name, somebody will take, of course, we know that, but like, it almost seems like it's getting to the point where like, Nate, you're kind of going too far now. Like, if you fail at Alabama continuously and they pull the plug on you, have you made yourself such a villain and such a question mark in terms of the attention you're going to bring to a school away from basketball? Do teams even want you? I don't know. I just feel like he might be getting a little too deep into that mess.
Well, I'll tell you what, if Bediako and Sears stay in the draft, that team is not going to be very good. But even with Bediako and Sears, I don't see them winning the SEC. I don't see them being dominant. I don't, maybe they make the tournament, maybe they don't. But yeah, they're not going to be anything like they were this year.
It is an SEC problem, though. Like, look at it in football.
Sure.
People will go to great lengths just to win. Auburn hired Hugh Freeze, who was calling up strippers on a work phone to come to service them, and he got a crazy recruiting class at Ole Miss one year that had Laramie Tunzel, who's the highest paid tackle in the league, Robert Kimdichie, who is the number 1 defensive end, and then Laquan Treadwell, all 3 of which were first round picks. And people are like, "Are you sure you're not paying them? Are you sure you just got them to go because they thought you were a good guy and they liked you?" Was probably paying guys. I think was under investigation for multiple tier 1 or tier 2 violations in the program. Yeah. They just want to win. People will deal with a 2 to 3 weeks of scrutiny around the press conference, around the hire, and once they get past that, they just want to win. That's what the SEC. Look at it in football. They're not patient. They don't want you to build a program. They want you to win right away.
Yeah.
They just care about winning there. Because think of how much money some of them boosters give to the school. They just want to win. And they're a conference on the SEC. they give more money than probably just about every other conference. Look at the stadiums and facilities they have. They want to win. The contracts they give to coaches, they want to win, and they'll
I just don't know if
unfortunately
in
they'll
basketball.
put that above a lot of other things.
Yeah. Just in basketball, I don't know if that will work though. Like football, I agree with you because guys stay for 3 years. Like you kind of like you can keep a guy, but like basketball,
your football teams are so big, you're gonna get some bad apples no matter what.
Just from the standpoint of the basketball, like football, I'm just saying like the SEC is so far ahead of everybody else. But like basketball, I don't know if you can win that. Like it comes around full circle, especially with the tournament structure and everything. Like it's so hard to be successful when you have if you are so questionable and everyone on the team is so iffy. It's just so hard to win because guys can leave after 1 year. Guys, you have no margin for error. Like football, you got guys who have to stick around for 3 years before they can go to the draft. They can't play international because like there's nowhere for them to go. So you can kind of weather that storm. But I feel like in basketball, it's such a slippery slope. I just don't know if you can win that way. I don't know. The SEC, it's a whole nother topic.
And to respond to what Booty said is, for somebody, I mean, I wasn't a good kid. I was a bad kid, and I wasn't a great student, until I really started to mature in, late in my college career, finally got my act together. But I never would have done something that would have ended up killing someone, or I certainly wouldn't have carried a gun or harmed somebody. And that's where I draw the line. That's where I draw the line. And that's where Alabama seems like, it seems like their team is just, better armed than the special forces.
I agree. When you're talking about guns and that should be, I don't understand that either. I don't understand how kids are in college playing college basketball and getting away with having guns. I don't get it. I don't care what side of the line you stand on with regard to that topic. When you're coming to collegiate athletics, having a gun, should be just an automatic disqualification in any type of amateur sports period.
I mean, that's God forbid, but the moment you bring a gun, one day if people are messing around with guns, it's going to be a teammate accidentally shoots a teammate or doesn't accidentally shoot a teammate, and then what? Like it's just going to only escalate.
Yeah, I don't get it.
Like
right. We had a purposeful shooting, but there's accidents that can happen too.
Yeah.
Right. All right, so let's end on a positive note because we haven't been overly positive toward Overtime Elite program, but they have a new media relations person, and I've stoked up a new relationship with them, and we should be having some of their players come on the show in future seasons, maybe even this year. But here's what's really cool about them: they're now acting like a true high school as well. So you have the option to be a professional player or be a high school player. And you can go to Elite and get full scholarship if you qualify, if they accept you. And then you can move on to play professionally at Elite, or you can go on to play at Kentucky or Alabama, God forbid. And so I really think this is cool. It's a good move. And also, of course, the collective bargaining agreement that was just approved, ratified in the NBA's collective bargaining agreement has made it so that kids, in past years, if you were 19 and you played in Elite, even if you only played one season there, you're automatically in the draft. That rule is going. It's gone. So now in the future, you won't have to declare until you're 22 years old. You won't be eligible for the draft unless you apply for early entry. So yeah, I'm very happy that Elite is not just kind of a pay guys and boost up their hopes, and it's I really like this option of them offering scholarships to high school players. Any comment?
100% agree. Agree.
As someone who's been critical, this is awesome.
Yeah. And I must say their new media relations person is very nice and we're getting along. The other guy was, anyway. All right. So let's stop. Oh, wait. Jake, I guess you'll be leaving us. We're going to move on to the NBA. I don't believe we're going to do the mailbag next, but we only have one question this week and it's an NBA question. So I guess I'll say adios to you and you can go watch that
draft.
That draft for that cricket league.
It's okay, Jake. I'm with you. I'll be tuning in. My girlfriend's actually working it right now. She's covering the social media for it, so she's getting all prepped up to do all the press releases and stuff.
Yeah, see, it's fun. I have a friend that works at ESPN,
I'm going to get you something called a DVR, by the way.
Doesn't hit the same because I get spoiled. I want to react live.
My goodness.
Wait, so Jake, are you a Broncos fan?
Yeah, it's miserable. Last 5 years, absolutely miserable.
And I'm a Chiefs fan. How's that rivalry been going?
Last time the Broncos beat the Chiefs,
you were 2 years old.
It was fall. I was a sophomore in high school, and for context, I graduated college in 4.5 years, and I graduated in December. That's how long it's been.
They're strong, Jake. They're strong.
I'm trying, man. I'm trying, but then I have a friend who's a Jets fan, so I'm like, it's not that bad. And as much as I love Rodgers, he'll probably still find a way to blow real bad with them. I was joking. I'm like, dude, the Jets. They draft guys, they bring in free agents, you put them in the Jets jerseys, they just forget what to do. They just don't know how
they forget how to play football.
They just forget.
Sorry, he's human. What is he, immunized or whatever?
Yeah, something like that.
He's going to take some ayahuasca and be fine.
Ivermectin will take the horse pills and, he'll be fine.
Booty, you're sticking around for the NBA, right?
Yeah.
All right. Can somebody
take care, guys.
All right. Thanks, Jake. Good seeing you.
What's up, Doc?
All right, cool. All right, so now Jake's gone, but Doc Luown's joined us for the NBA section, and I didn't know at the time, but I put the mailbag before our NBA chat just in case we had NBA questions and college questions. I thought we could all contribute, but we only had one question this week, and it's NBA related. So, and I didn't include the whole thing. It was obviously from a frustrated Clipper fan, and I basically broke down what he said and paraphrased what he was saying, and so here it goes. If you were near the end of your career, had made millions, and had never won the NBA championship, would you play at less than 100%, even if it meant you were more likely to suffer an even greater injury? Now, of course, he's referring to one specific player, Paul George.
George.
Right. Yeah. He's not talking about Kawhi. He's talking about Paul George. And so I guess what he's saying is, why the hell didn't Paul George play? Anybody want to take a crack at this?
I mean, Paul George himself said it. He doesn't believe that he is the guy that can lead a team. And so Kawhi wasn't going to be out there. I think he just, in his head, he was just like, I'm not 100%. I'm not the guy. I don't believe I'm the guy. Like when you admit something like that to yourself and you believe that in yourself, I don't think you're ever going to be able to overcome that. You've like confirmed that bias in your own head. So I think for Paul George's sake, like, I know he was injured. I think it was a knee sprain, if I'm not mistaken.
And it was supposed to be six weeks recovery time, and he was in the fifth week.
Yeah. So, I mean, I understand when you talk about things like knees, like in football, like concussion, like there's certain things where it's like, do you want to potentially put yourself into a position where you could really hurt yourself down the line and make your life more physically grueling? I understand that.
Paul George, 32 years old. How much time's he got left? How many more shots is he going to get at this?
No, I mean, I agree. Like, I mean, I would have liked to maybe try to see him give it a go, but at the same time, I don't necessarily agree with it. But like Paul George himself said, he doesn't believe in his ability to lead a team. So in his head, I don't think of a Clippers fan, that's like the worst thing you want to hear from one of your players, particularly one of your max contract.
What happened to playoff Paul?
Yeah, no, yeah, it was 5 seasons ago now. I don't know. I just think that like I'm not surprised. I don't necessarily agree with it, but I'm not surprised.
What do you think, Doc?
Yeah, a lot of these players kind of don't want to play with injuries because they don't want to be embarrassed when they turn out to be bad in the playoffs. So a lot of these guys go through. We see a lot of bad player performances. Sometimes these guys do be injured. They probably won't say it. So afterwards, make it seem like, I had this injury when I was playing. So a lot of guys now, like Pandemic P, who in a 2020 bubble, was horrible. So he don't want to he want to be 100% of players because he don't want that backlash that he did bad. So that's what guys. Almost every NBA player, honestly, like Giannis just now. He had a back injury, but he still played. So everybody's still okay. You played and you missed 13 free throws. I want to hear your back is messed up. You missed 13 free throws. Everybody gonna remember you lost 4-1 to Miami Heat. Now, see, if you just sat out, his career thing would have been like he would never had no flaw on it. Now it looks like, damn, nobody's going to bring up that back injury. So that's like the same mindset Paul George.
I don't think Clippers fans are going to forget that Paul George was close to 100%. I just can't imagine. I mean, Booney, can you imagine like in the 90s, like Michael Jordan said, well, I know I look close to 100%, but there's a chance I could, the doctors say there's a chance, I might be, might make it worse. And I'm like thinking, anytime you go on the court, you might get hurt. Anytime you walk across the street, you might get hurt. Players never used to think that way.
I mean, I've never been a real big Kevin Durant fan, but I tell you one thing about Kevin Durant. He's a gamer. And when he suited up and went decided to play against Toronto in Game 6, was a big deal for me. So, yeah, I don't agree with what Paul George did. I don't like it, and says a lot about his legacy and where he's going. But at the same time,
but see how crazy what Booney brought up. Kevin Durant wound up getting injured like a quarter as soon as he came back. See, that's the concern right there. He should never been on that court, and then that wasted. And then when he came back, that wasted a whole another year for KD, a whole another year. So and then Kawhi been through that, and with the Spurs when he was forced to come back, he wanted to miss a whole another year. So I think it's definitely advocate, but I mean if you're not, it doesn't. I don't know this situation with Paul George. He didn't win anything, and KD technically already won, and Kawhi technically won one in Spurs. But I mean it's an up and down situation. I think it's just more about him not one to perform in the playoffs and not. Versus playing bad, I think that's what it is. I think the social media ruin people's mindsets when they play bad in the playoffs. So I think that's what it was. He wants to be 100% when playing the playoffs. Ever since it happened in 2020.
Well, either way, I mean, from a Clippers fan perspective, like the guy who wrote to us, it certainly doesn't make him any happier because he wants to see his guys. He wants them to win as much as he wants them to win,
but just because you was injured for 6 weeks, it's like reevaluating in 6 weeks. Doesn't mean you healthy. You still got to get checked up again.
No, but he said himself he was close to 100%. And he said that. He said he was close to 100%. But the reason why he was sitting out was because he was afraid that he might turn the wrong. I think the words that he used. He might turn the wrong way or come down awkwardly. Yeah, I get that, but you might do that even if you're 100% healthy. I don't know. It's just for me, it's kind of like the guy who wrote the email put it. He's at near the end of his career. He's made all the money he could ever need, and he's never won a championship. And I think they could have beat the Suns. Certainly with both of those guys, but I think they would have definitely still be playing if they had one of them.
Yeah, I'll say this before we move on to the topics. He also had like a horrible injury when he was when he played against Georgia State basketball. I forgot he broke his whole leg and it was gruesome injury, and we saw the bone come out. Like those stuff could be mental, that's just doesn't want to re-injure. When he's a guy that had one of the worst injuries from an NBA player's perspective. You know, we've seen it before in college.
It was kind of like a Gordon Hayward thing.
Yeah, Gordon Hayward or that guy from Louisville back in the days. What his name when he broke his leg?
Kevin Ware.
Yeah. So he has injuries. So if he wants to be proactive about injuries, I'm fine with Paul George. Honestly, sorry, Clipper fan. I don't know, Clipper fan. I understand you upset your team never won before. Okay, let's stop. Okay, how about you get Elton Brand and them guys back? Those are your best times to win it.
All right. Well, thanks for the question, David. If anyone would like to send us a question for future episodes, please email it to admin@hoopsprospects.com. That's ADMIN. We also take questions via social media on Twitter @hoopsprospects, on Instagram @thehoopsprospects, and on Facebook @hoopspros. All right. So we'll move on to our regular NBA portion. And so what are your reactions to, I'm going to throw 3 series out there, and I think each of them has something, we could chat about. But number 1 would be the Bucks losing to the Heat, and the Cavs losing to the Knicks. Most of us like the Cavs, and the Clippers losing to the Suns. We were kind of split on that one. So someone want to lead off?
Yeah, the playoffs been interesting. Had 2 upsets. The Kings almost pulled off an upset, but now they're going to probably lose by 30 and Golden State. I guess is what tomorrow. They play Friday.
Yeah.
The first round was a great first round. The most disappointing series was the Sun series because of the Clippers stars not playing. But with the Bucks, man, you can't lose like that, man. There's no way. They pulled the CP3. Remember CP3 just looked old one series versus Dallas? That's what they did. It's bad. It's bad the way they looked. And I don't know what they're going to do because they're not getting any younger. They traded away Jordan, Nora. They got Jay Crowder. They didn't even play Jay Crowder.
Nope.
They team is a mess, honestly, because now – you need a closer. Chris Middleton came back from the injury. Doesn't even look like Chris Middleton. I don't know. That player is just this new Chris Middleton on the court right now. It's not who he is. Drew Holiday is getting older. He couldn't guard Jimmy Butler to save his life. I think that team is in great danger. They're going to need a scorer now. They need a Zach LaVine desperately on their team. They need a Donovan Mitchell. And also the Cavs. The Cavs are disappointed in now too. I feel like we have to have a serious conversation about Donovan Mitchell. We was blaming Rudy Gobert in Utah, saying was Rudy Gobert for it. Now he comes to the Cavs. To us, your team is built better than the Knicks team. You're the best player on the court, and you got outplayed by Jalen Brunson. And it's obvious you did. We got to have a conversation about that with Donovan Mitchell. You can't. I understand he scores the basketball, but look at his field goal percentage in the playoffs. He just shoots 40% and then shoots 20% from 3. Like, come on. This guy does not shoot well at all. But we always blame someone else when it comes to him. Rudy Gobert was a big scapegoat. But over Rudy Gobert, they was do his job and play defense. So I think the Cavs and the Bucks got some serious conversations to do. I think Donovan Mitchell got to reflect. I think he needs to change his game. And I think the Cavs need to put the ball more in Garland's hands, let him run the show, and let Donovan Mitchell score by the flow. He's better like that. Just go by the flow. Do not feel like you got to play superhero ball, because the way he plays basketball in the playoffs is just he shoots the team out of games.
Right? Yeah, I got to agree.
Ball over a ton too. Turn the ball over a ton too.
Oh, right.
3 and 4, 6 turnovers each game. Game 3 of itself, I was just looking at game 4, 5 of 18 from the floor with 6 turnovers. Come on. That's the guy you're paying all the money to.
Yeah.
But the Knicks look pretty smart for not going hard after him, don't they?
Oh, absolutely. It looks, as it stands, they made the right decision. They went with Brunson over Mitch. That's as it stands. I think Doc's right. I think this has been a really, really awesome first round. As somebody who wasn't super plugged into the NBA as much as they have been in the past this year, I've been really entertained. I second a lot of the stuff he said. I think the Clippers are at a crossroads now. Like, what are they going to do? Because those guys are only getting older. Kawhi only has suffered another knee injury. Paul George, again, as I said, has told you he doesn't want to be the guy. He doesn't believe he can be the guy. That roster, they're at a crossroads. It'd be very interesting to see what they do. I think the Cavs will be all right. I agree that Mitchell's got to figure something out, but there's just a lot of really good young talent on that team. And I don't think anybody thought they were primed to make like a deep run or anything. So I don't necessarily think this season's a disappointment. It just seemed like they were the better overall team.
Yeah.
But the Knicks had been into the playoffs.
I think
They had
losing
a
the way
veteran
they
coach.
did makes it leaves a real sour. If they lost in 7, if they lost in 7, we probably wouldn't even be talking about it. But
it's also who they lost to, though, too. It's who they lost to, honestly. It's the Knicks. I'm from New York, man. The Knicks have not been good in my life.
Julius Randle didn't even play well.
Yeah, Julius Randle had an average, like 13 points? I don't like you losing that series in 5, and you had home court advantage, and you got the best player on the court. It's pretty bad to me, honestly. I can't. That's bad loss. That's bad because if you think about
having a disappearing act, I'm going to agree with you.
If you think about the top teams in the East, we say the 3, but everybody, we even did our list. We all picked Cleveland to beat the Knicks. I think it's just, and I think everybody put Cleveland to beat the Knicks. It's just, I don't see it. RJ Barrett wasn't even killing. I don't know how they lost.
Well, I'll tell you, Mitchell and Hartenstein outplayed Mobley and Jared Allen, and Randall. He didn't play well in Game 4, but he was off to a really good start before he turned his ankle last night. So I think the front court too. I mean, Mobley was pretty much didn't do a hell of a lot, and Jared Allen even did less. And meanwhile, Mitchell Robinson looks like Wilt Chamberlain out there last night.
I mean, maybe also we have to have the conversation. I mean, maybe Jalen Brunson is better than Mitchell. Maybe he was. Maybe Jalen Brunson was the best player on the court. Like, I know Mitchell has the statistical resume that we look at, but like we might have to have the conversation that the best player in that series, which is what the playoff actually turns into oftentimes. Maybe Mitchell is just not that guy, and Brunson is. I mean,
Brunson's a damn winner, man.
That's what I'm saying.
He wins.
Like maybe Brunson's the best player in the series, and it boils down to they were better. Just like when you look at like the Kings-Warriors series, it looks like Steph is going to be the factor. The Warriors, when Steph's on the court, the Kings can't do anything with him. When he's off, they go on runs. It's the same kind of effect. I'm not saying Brunson's Steph Curry, but just like he was the best player. And maybe we have to have the conversation that in the hierarchy of the NBA, Brunson is now ahead of Mitchell. At least if we go by the old adage that you got to, to be the best, you got to beat the best. He went heads up with Mitchell and kicked his ass. And I just want to give Jimmy Butler some flowers really quick. I think Jimmy Butler, I just want to throw this out there, is everything that's right with sports. I know Rich Booney, we had talked about like Alabama and like just how bad of a look that is. On a positive note, Jimmy Butler's the other end of that spectrum. I think that guy is everything that's right. I'm not going to sit here and lie. I thought the Bucks were going to win the whole thing, and I had them winning this series. But that guy, his story and the way that dude plays, and I don't think in my lifetime I've ever seen a player who can flip the switch when it comes to the playoffs and do it against the best teams. Like he faced down Giannis, Middleton, the runner-up defensive player of the year, Brook Lopez, Drew Holiday. They got Crowder, Ingles, Connaughton. Faced them down with Max Strus, Gabe Vincent, and Caleb Martin, and kicked the crap out of them.
Cody Zeller.
Cody Zeller. So like I'm sorry, man. Like Jimmy Butler is the man. And look, I'm not saying I think the Heat are going to win the whole thing, but I just want to give that dude some flowers. I know he doesn't need them, but man, the Timberwolves and the Sixers, what the hell were you doing? They let that guy go for damn near nothing, it feels like. And that dude, we talk about Brunson being a winner. Jimmy Buckets is the man. I think his story, his demeanor, the way he shows up, plays hard, plays basketball the right way, taking mid-range jumpers, just hats off to him, man. He is awesome. And I will root. I'm a fan for life of that dude. He is awesome.
I couldn't agree with you more. I love Jimmy Butler. I think
another cool part of the playoffs, and you guys may disagree on that, this depending on who you're rooting for, is the officiating. I love the officiating right now. They're letting them play on both ends of the floor, and I think that's part of the reason why Mitchell wasn't as effective in the playoff series as he was in the regular season. I think the defense is a lot more physical, and I think the officiating is letting a lot more go, where they have to earn buckets versus just letting them score at will. So I do like the officiating, and I think that's part of the reason why the opening round has been so compelling for me, at least.
I'd like to add one other point about the Clippers. I would say probably their two best performers against the Suns are both free agents. The two players that they're going to lose or could lose, Westbrook and Mason Plumlee. I thought Mason Plumlee played awesome. Yeah, so I don't know. I don't know what they're going to do. And I agree with Doc. The Bucks are in trouble. I mean, those guys are old, except for Giannis and Middleton.
Yeah.
I mean, Middleton, yeah, he scored a lot of points last night, but he had 6'2" or 6'3" Gabe Vincent guarding him. He better score on a small little dude like that.
And didn't put the ball in the clutch at all.
Yeah.
Right.
2021 was a long time ago, man. In basketball years, that's a long time ago. And people forget they caught some major breaks when they won the title. They had Brooklyn injured. And they got lucky, got Atlanta in the conference finals.
Right.
Like they had some breaks. I'm not saying they didn't deserve to win. They were a great team. They've been a great team. But like if you look back, 2021 in basketball years is a long time ago. And even when they did win it, they got kind of lucky. KD was a toenail away from sending them home by himself.
So does anyone think Budenholzer is going to be around next week?
No, they need somebody to blame, and it's easy to blame the coach.
Well, one thing I was thinking all last night is why don't you put Crowder on Jimmy Butler? Give him a shot.
Why not just put Giannis on Jimmy Butler?
Put Giannis on him. Thank you, Doc.
Right. Well,
thank you, Doc.
That's one thing he never does. He never puts Giannis on the best offensive player. Never.
But Giannis should be like, I'm going to guard him. He got to have that. Listen, I got him. He's
yeah, I agree.
You got to do that. You got to do that, Giannis. Like, you can't call yourself a great defender and you don't guard you never guard the best player. He don't guard. I never saw him lock up anybody who he never guard Jason Tatum. He don't guard Embiid. Nope. He don't guard Jimmy Butler. It don't matter what position the guy's at. He won't guard. Right. You can't be the best defender. You just can't.
I agree. I've never understood that. Everyone calls him a great defender, and the only thing I've ever heard was, well, they got to save him for the offensive end. And I'm like, yeah, well, you know what? When the other team is going crazy with one guy, one guy is going crazy on you, and you obviously can win this game if you can shut down that one guy. That's the time that you say, fuck the offense, and you, excuse me.
KP.
Oh, God, I'm going to get KP'd. And you worry about the defense. So I'm with you.
Rich, very quickly. Breaking news. This is not NBA. Max Abmas, Texas.
Wow. All right.
Where was he originally going to go, Abmas? Was he over?
That was one of his options. K-State.
K-State was the one. I thought K-State.
Right.
Okay.
Well, now I'm drawing a blank, but there's another Tyler Perry was considering K-State. Now he might be the guy to go there. Also, our boy Ray J. Dennis, who was on the show last week, he might be an option to go to K-State.
Yeah.
All right. So a little college news there. All right. So let's move on and talk about the series that are still going on. Celtics and Hawks tip off in about a half hour. Celtics are up 3-2, but they're in Atlanta tonight. Who is going to win that series?
Well, Boston by 40 tonight, man. Boston.
I think you might be right, Doc.
On the road?
Yeah, I agree. I think it's going to be close.
Off right now. They're one of those teams that's like they play. They tired of being in the first. They only want to play the first round no more. They just want to skip to the conference finals or the finals. They feel like they owe think about it. Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown been in Eastern Conference /Finals for since they've been together.
Right.
Since they was rookies. Remember the first year they upsetted the Sixers. They played LeBron James. They went to Game 7. LeBron James go to Eastern Conference Finals. They went there last year. They went to the championship, and I think the year before they lost to Giannis. I think Giannis beat them before, right?
Yeah.
So they always been in the mix. They just never can win. So I think tonight these are gonna say, listen, let's put this to bed and let's just go play Philly and Boston. That's what they're waiting for. Because they know that's the finals.
Yeah,
they know whoever wins that series goes to the finals.
Wow.
Yeah, no debate.
Oh, you're talking about Sixers Boston, not Atlanta Boston.
Oh, no, Sixers Boston.
Right. Yeah.
I think tonight is over.
Yeah, I think the NBA Finals is going to be in the second round of the playoffs in the Eastern Conference.
Oh, come on. How soon we forget.
How soon they forget, man.
How soon they forget.
All right, so now we have the Homer Warrior fans. That series 3-2. Golden State finally won on the road last night, and De'Aaron Fox was so quiet in the fourth quarter. It was unusual. Of course, his Kentucky teammate, who's the other guard? Malik Monk went crazy. And did his best to keep the Kings in the game, but it wasn't enough. And so the Warriors, I don't know, did they win easy?
I think that was a good game, by the way.
Yeah, it was a good game, but I just thought it was kind of comfortable toward the end. It didn't seem too much in doubt.
Yeah,
but I guess it was close. It was in one possession.
Last few minutes, it was tough. Yeah.
Well, I think the Warriors were content. It was frustrating to watch because Malik Monk went to his right hand 9 drives in a row and either was able to facilitate something on the diver or just score. But I think the Warriors were also maybe like, look, if Malik Monk's doing his thing, the way he plays, that means no one else is really hurting us. And so we're content to let him kind of do his thing. I mean, I was talking to one of my good friends who's a diehard Kings fan in that game, and he was giving me, the Kings came out hot. Warriors had 5 or 6 turnovers, gave up 3 offensive boards in the first quarter. The Kings hit 8 threes from guys who are like 30% career 3-point shooters. And it was a 3-point game. And I think what makes the Warriors dangerous.
It was bigger, but by the end of the quarter, it was a 3-point game.
The thing that makes the Warriors dangerous, and this is why I picked them to make a run, is they're tough to beat at home. They're a very different team. At home, they are a very good team. They're just tough to beat. They are the defending champions with the most championship pedigree this side of LeBron James in the NBA. If they can just win one on the road, you have to come beat them in their place probably multiple times. And I think the Warriors' pedigree is good enough, especially when I look at the Grizzlies, Lakers, and then even like Suns, Nuggets, where I think the Warriors can get 1 in your building. Can you come to their place and probably get 2? I don't know. Any team. Now, Celtics are loaded. Sixers are loaded. I had the Bucks beating the Warriors, but I'm just saying, when I look in the West, that's what it boils down to. Is they're going to have, and Steph Curry, arguably the best player in every series, if not the second, and it's going to probably be close. And they're hard to beat at home, and I believe in them enough that they can get 1 on the road. They should have won game 1. Mm-hmm. They should have won game 1. As bad as they played, they were a 3-ball away from tying it, and they got 2 good looks at the rim.
Right.
So I think Warriors beat the Kings in game 6. I think the Kings are going to give everything they've got, but I think the Warriors at home have kind of figured them out. I think the Kings mentally have to be like, dude, we had a 2-0 lead. We blew it. They beat us on our court. Like, the Kings could not have played any better in that first quarter, and they couldn't put the Warriors away. I think that's a synopsis of the series.
The other thing I want to point out is Fox was pretty much on a roll for the first 3 quarters. And then somewhere toward the end of the third quarter or maybe beginning of the fourth, he aggravated that hand again. Yeah. And he was really quiet after that.
Yeah.
So I will say this about De'Aaron Fox, just like Jimmy Butler, been super impressed. Yeah. Super impressed. I'll start my team with De'Aaron Fox and Jimmy Butler. All right, last series might have some disagreement on this one. Grizzlies, Lakers up 3-2. Next game in Los Angeles on tomorrow. And then if there's a game 7, it'll be Sunday. Who you got, Doc? Grizzlies, Lakers.
I'm still rolling with Memphis, man. And the reason it's hard to roll with Memphis because they can't shoot threes All right, they're not even making jump shots. Dylan Brooks been horrible. But I do feel like I don't know, we watched those games, but even though the Lakers was up 3-1, Memphis could have won two of those games, both of those games in LA possible. Memphis' problem is they don't know who to guard at the right time. It's like they overselling that LeBron James and AD when they not even killing guard. Let them try to go nut and score. Austin Reeves and Rui Hachimura cannot get 20. That's the problem. You have to stop. You can't let these other guys go berserk on you. So you have to stop those two. LeBron James is not going to the basket. I said this in our first
last week.
LeBron James is not going to keep going to the basket. I don't care how much better he is on Dylan Brooks. His MO is not going to the basket down here every drive. He's going to do 3-pointers. Like he was horrible his last game. Oh my God. But he shoots more jump shots now than going to the basket. So it's like you guys have to stop the others. If LeBron James, if you want to put somebody like Desmond Bane on LeBron James, or just leave the center. That's what's his name?
McDaniel. Xavier McDaniel.
No, Tillman.
Or Tillman, right.
Tillman on LeBron James. Leave him on LeBron James. Leave Jackson on AD. Davis. And then put your best defender, Dylan Brooks, on Austin Reeves. You can't let these guys get confidence at home. The game is right there for y'all to win every time. But they trying to guard LeBron James with Dylan Brooks. LeBron James is not going to kill you 4 quarters. LeBron James might have one good quarter, and that's it. He's not going to have 4 good quarters. You don't got to put your best defender on him every time. You just don't. And I think on the offensive end, they need somebody to wake up. They need either Dylan Brooks to wake up, or Luke Kennard to wake up, or Jared Jackson to wake up and get 20 points. They need, because Desmond Bane and John Morant going to get 20, but you need one more person just to wake up and shoot. You don't even got to get 20, but shoot well. Like, be a surprise. Like, hit 2 threes, 3 threes. Like, be a surprise, like what Russell did. Russell saved that game when he hit 3 straight threes. See, that's the guy right there who just saved the game for the Lakers to win. So the series to me is closer than what the 3-1 said. But I think Memphis, I got Memphis, man. LeBron James looks so tired, man. I don't like him. I think the Warriors might sleep, though, man. I just don't, if they was to play.
I agree. You know what cracked me up when the Lakers won Game 4 and on the game that went into overtime and LeBron made the shot that pushed it into overtime? And the announcers are going, "Oh, look at LeBron James. What an amazing player. What an amazing player." And I'm like, he just drove by Xavier Tillman, okay? He didn't drive by Michael Jordan. He didn't drive by Kobe Bryant. He drove by Xavier Tillman. And he barely made the shot.
That was a tough layup by him, though. I will give him that. That was a tough layup.
No, it was great.
I didn't think he was going to make it.
I'm just saying, I mean, 5-10 years ago, LeBron against Xavier Tillman would have been a laugh.
Yeah.
But now it's hard work for LeBron.
Yeah.
Anybody else? Anybody going to defend the Lakers? Because I think Doc put it on the head. I still think they have enough. I mean, they got that 1-game lead. So, but if they don't win tomorrow,
it's over.
It's over.
Yeah, it's over. It's party in Memphis.
But I'm still leaning toward the Lakers because they have the lead. But I agree with everything that Doc just said.
Same kind of mindset you have here, Rich. I think the Lakers have enough of a lead. They're at home. They just got to get one of the next 2. But if they don't win at home, I think it's a wrap, because it's just they're going to have to put so much energy into trying to win. I think they're going to give everything they've got to win Game 6. It's all hands on deck. You got to play 40 minutes. You're playing 40-plus minutes. And if they don't win, they're going to have to go into Memphis, old legs, and face a Grizzlies team that's feeling real good about their prospects. And I just think they're not going to – I just don't know if there's enough. And you never – I've been a fan of Rui since he was with the Zags. Other guys have stepped up. But it's like in a Game 7 of that magnitude with the choking of a 3-1 lead on the line, is Rui going to be able to show up and continue to be the guy in that moment? I don't know. So I'm going to say Lakers have to put it away tomorrow. If not, Grizz probably take it in 7. Either way, Warriors would smack both of these teams, just on a side note.
I don't know about that.
Well, we'll get to that. We'll get to that. We got our conference picks coming, or conference semifinal picks. Booney, you have any thoughts on the Lakers Grizz series?
Yeah, I mean, I want the Lakers to win. I mean, I picked them in our little playoff predictions.
Right.
And what, by the way, I'm absolutely dominating. It's like going against 3 number 16 seeds. But anyway, back to the game. I agree with Doc. If you looked at that Laker team last night, they looked slow. They looked a step behind. And to me, Memphis kind of turned it into a new gear. And I see that happening again in game 6. Going back to Memphis, forget about it.
All right. So it's 2-2. Drew and I like the Lakers. You guys like Memphis, and I certainly, I am not confident in the Lakers. So before we move on to our conference semi-final picks, just want to run over some NBA notes and see if you guys have any comments. The Raptors, at least to me, surprisingly fired Nick Nurse, but apparently Nick Nurse wasn't too disappointed to go. Apparently that's been brewing for a while. He hasn't been happy with the way the team's constructed. And at the same time, how do you say Udoka's first name?
Ime.
Ime Udoka became the Rockets head coach after a little bit of a scandal in Boston. Anybody have any thoughts on these moves? Good, bad?
Well, I started with Ime. It's cool for Ime to go to Houston. He changed he helped the Boston Celtics turn around with their young guys. So maybe he could do the same thing with Houston. Houston has roster reconstruction to do though. But I like Ime. I like Ime as a coach. He brings defense. That's something that what's the young guy name? What's the guard name on Houston? He needs to play some defense.
Kevin Porter.
Jalen Green, they all need to play defense.
Yeah, both of them. Yeah.
Well, both of them. But
there's hardly anybody on that team that plays defense.
Well, Ime gonna bring that. So as long as he can help them bring a defense, they should be way much better because they got the offense. They just don't know how to put everything together. And for the Raptors, I think they're just gonna blow up the whole team and start over with Becky Hammond. So let's just new age,
Cool.
And they speaking to her this weekend.
Nice. The one thing I'm worried about with Udoka is who's the Celtics coach now? Who's only 34 years old?
Is he? He's young.
He played at West Virginia. Joe Mazzulla. Right. So Joe Mazzulla has really, the team hasn't missed a beat without Udoka. So you wonder how much of that was actually Brad Stevenson's team construction over coaching. Because it doesn't seem really right now. It doesn't seem to matter who's the coach. That team's still going to win.
I would say I would argue. I could really argue that point from the broad view. Yeah. But when you watch them play, it is something missing. Just like last year, they swept the Brooklyn Nets with Kyrie and KD. This year, they're going to Game 6 with the Atlanta Hawks. That's a difference. That's a difference.
I didn't see this up top though. I would like to say about Atlanta is we were talking about last week that they would blow it up if they don't win it all. I don't know if that team needs to blow it up. It's not surprising to me that they're 3-2 with Boston. What's surprising to me is that this team wasn't better all year, because when you look at it on paper, you're like, damn, they got everything you need. And so, and I really like the addition of Sadiq Bey. And I don't know. I think, maybe they need one more grinder and one less scorer. Maybe they need maybe Collins has to go, or maybe Capella's time is done. I don't know, but I think they might want to give it one more year, because Jalen Johnson, for example, is starting to come on. And the other Dookie, who's a rookie, the shooter, real good shooter, AJ Griffin. He hasn't even had a shot at it. So I think they have enough offensive players. I think what they need is somebody, with grit, like a Charles Oakley or a PJ Tucker, not PJ Tucker at 86 years old, but PJ Tucker, like at 28. But anyway, I digress. All right. So let's talk about the awards. When's the MVP award going to be announced?
Second round. There's always second round.
Okay. All right. So we had 2 more awards announced this week, and I doubt we have problems with them, except for maybe the fact that the Rookie of the Year was so unanimous, like Jalen Williams didn't even get a sniff for Rookie of the Year. But Lauri Markkanen won Most Improved Player, and Paulo Banchero, which we expected, won Rookie of the Year. Do we have problems with either of these awards?
I thought Alexander should have gotten Most Improved. Shea Gilgeous.
Shay. I hear you there. I hear you. Yeah.
I mean, so it's you can go. I understand that argument for Markin as well, but I mean, Shea Gilgeous went to almost 31, a little over 31 a game. Sure, he averaged 24 last year, and there was a bigger upside for.
Yeah, I think that's the thing. I think they're looking at the strides that were made. The difference between where they were and where they are. And Shea's been making like this steady progress, where Markkanen was starting to look like a bust, and now all of a sudden he looks like the player we always expected him to be when he was a lottery pick.
Yeah, agree. Shea's been ascending the last couple of years. Lauri blew up and became an all-star kind of out of the blue, so I got no issues.
I think the argument on Twitter was that so Lauri, he changed situations. So his situation he changed into kind of made him elevate into that, like where Shea, he more developed and got better.
That's
on the
true.
same situation.
That's absolutely true.
So that is a good point to argue, but I don't mind Lauri winning.
I don't mind it either, but
You can make the same argument for Lauri though. Like he had to go and be the guy, and he could have been imagine if he was there, they tried to make him the guy, and he was shit. Like it would have been like, oh, this dude sucks. So I mean, both had situations where one rose to the occasion, and the other one has steadily gotten better in the same situation, has continued to improve. Because Lauri could have easily fell on his face and been like a bust, like we kind of were projecting at some point.
Right. Actually, I never gave up on him because I loved him so much in Arizona.
Yeah, I kind of liked him in Chicago. I never thought I don't know what it was, but I liked him in Chicago definitely. I wanted when the Sixers bad.
Well, you gotta love a mobile 7-foot guy that has a nice stroke like that. It's hard not to like.
I don't like him as a first or second option though. I think he better third.
Maybe second option, but I get you. Tell you, the Milwaukee Bucks would love him right about now.
Yeah, but he would be second option in that situation over Chris Middleton. Yeah.
So this is something that Drew and I have harped upon for quite some time, probably going back to last summer. And somebody was on the show. We had a writer. I forget who it was, but somebody said, you don't need a G League affiliate. Well, the 2 teams that don't have G League affiliates are the Portland Trailblazers and the Phoenix Suns. And both of them, when you look at their roster, their depth sucks. And their potential, coming up the pipeline sucks. And Portland has now decided that they will have a G League affiliate next season. And guess what? The Suns are right behind them. They plan to have one next year. So, Drew, we've been verified by the people who do the real decision-making, and they believe they need a G League team like we've been saying they need a G League team.
Yep.
So, all right, so let's move on to our conference semifinals. And boy, do we have some challenges here because we got to make them now because the series are going to start. Actually, the Knicks and Heat will actually be playing on Saturday. And I believe Phoenix and Denver will actually start playing on Monday or Tuesday. So I don't think that's been determined yet. But bottom line is, before we're back on, those series are going to be going on, but we have to make our picks, not even knowing who the exact matchups are. But before we begin, I want to say one thing about the Bucks losing. And that is, Drew can back me up on this because he was on the show last summer. And I don't know if you remember, Drew, but when the Celtics signed Brogdon, I said, you might as well just hand the NBA title to the Celtics now. And other people, I think Connor was on the show, and he was like, he was barking at me. Connor and I never saw eye to eye on anything about the NBA.
I mean, he is a Thunder fan, and Thunder fans are a different breed.
But anyway, I said in the summer the Celtics are going to win it. I said preseason Celtics going to win it. Well, actually, did I? I don't remember if I did, but I didn't say the Bucks were going to win it. But I kind of been riding the Celtics train. And then when we make our picks, I pick the Bucks, who promptly lose to the 8th seed. So I'm kicking myself in the butt for not sticking with the Celtics. But here we go. All right, so. Cam, I'm sure Cam will write in his picks a couple weeks later. What do you think, Drew?
He's gonna pick everything coincidentally. He's gonna have right picks all the way to the NBA Finals down to the final scores in the games. He's gonna call everything.
I told him to put in his picks today and not add them like 2 weeks later, but he didn't. But all right, so let's go across. So we'll just go in order as it is. Here on the sheet in front of us. Knicks Heat. Who you got, Drew?
I'm not betting against Jimmy Butler. I might be super wrong, but I'll give me the Heat. I'm on the Jimmy Butler train. All
righty. Who you got, Buddy?
I like the Knicks. I think they're going to figure out how to game plan for.
I forgot to tell you. Let me read the rules. So we added this so we could have some fun in the middle of the playoffs. So here's the rules. Picks made during the playoffs, conference semis, conference finals, NBA finals will be worth 10 points each and 5 bonus points for picking the correct winner in the exact number of games. So I need a number too. So you got the Heat in how many?
Give me, I think it's a war. Give me Heat in 7.
Heat in 7. All right, Booney, you were saying you like the Knicks.
I like the Knicks. I think they're going to game plan for Jimmy Butler, and I think Julius Randle's going to have a big series. I like the Knicks in 5.
Knicks in 5. Doc, Heat or Knicks?
I love Jimmy Butler, but without Tyler Hero, I feel like it's going to be tough. I'll pick Knicks in 6.
All right, Knicks in 6. I am going to say the same thing. Knicks in 6, and for the same reasons. The Heat just don't have much depth. I know they survived last night, which seemed like a miracle, but if you could somehow manage to slow down Butler, I think Miami's in huge trouble. One guy against the team. Now, the one thing the Heat might have going for him is Randle's sprained ankle, but the Knicks didn't really seem to miss him much yet in the last 2 games. So, all right, here's where it's going to get fun. As Doc said, this will probably be the NBA Finals, assuming the Celtics get there. So we have Celtics Hawks versus Sixers. So we got to project the winner of that one series and then have them play Philly. So what do you got, Drew?
I'm going Celtics versus Sixers. And I'm going to say Boston in 6.
Wow. Booney, who you got?
I like Celtics in 7. Might be the best series of the whole playoffs.
It's the NBA Finals.
I see that every year.
Doc, who you got?
Boston in 5.
Wow.
Wow is right.
All right. So I thought about this all day. And I think if everything was equal, I like Boston in 7. And throw in Embiid's injury, I should be right on that train, right? I should just say Boston 7 or 6. However, Celtics have one more game to play, possibly 2. Unlikely, but possibly. And who knows what's going to happen then. Also, the Sixers, up until this point, have looked like the best team in the playoffs. So I'm wearing a Sixers shirt. I'm gonna say Sixers in 7. Just after I got done saying I was kicking myself in the ass for not going with Boston to win it all. All right, so talk about contradictory. All right, this one we know what the matchup is: Denver and Suns. Denver will have home court, obviously being number 1 seed. Who you got, Drew?
I'm going Nuggets in 6.
Denver in 6. Who you got, Booney?
Devin Booker had to absolutely play like Superman to beat a very undermanned Clipper team. With that being said, I still see him winning a few games, and But I like the Nuggets and the elevation to get it done in 7.
Okay. Doc, I think I know who you'd like here.
Suns in 6.
Suns in 6. I'm going with Denver in 7. Like Denver's depth. Booker's been amazing, but as I said, KD's just not. I just think he's not the same KD as we're used to, and I think it starts to catch up to him in this round. All right, so here we have 4 teams that could be playing 4 different combinations. We have the Warriors Kings winner versus the Lakers Grizzlies winner. This is kind of fun, really. You got to pick this far ahead. I love this. All right, who you got, Drew?
Give me Warriors over Lakers. Warriors in 5.
Okay, all you have to do is pick the winner. Yeah, that's fine.
Well, I don't care. I said they kick the Warriors in 5.
Warriors in 5.
But I say they play the Lakers.
Okay.
I got the exact same thing. Warriors in 5.
Doc, who you got?
Wait, but I'm confused. So I don't know. I don't know who they're gonna play yet.
I know, but you said Grizzlies are going to win the series. You said Warriors are going to win the series, so you just have to go with that. You could be wrong, but that's what we have to do it now, because next time we have the show, the series is going to be like 2-3 games in.
So what if so Grizzlies? I just picked Grizzlies in 7.
Yep. All right. I am going to go. I see it just the way I see Warriors, Lakers. And I, just like Doc said, if these 2 teams meet, he sees the Warriors sweeping him. I thought about that, but I'm not quite sure the Lakers are going to be there. So I'm going to say, like the other guys did, I'm going to say Golden State in 5. But I think if it's the Lakers, it's going to be sweep. All right, so Booty was bragging about having the lead, but he doesn't really have the lead. See, Booty's shifty like that. He's shifty. Got to watch him. Right now, Doc has the lead. But Booty has the potential to have the most points after the first round because all of his teams are still alive. Everybody's teams are still alive to win the championships in the NBA championship, and most of us still have our teams alive too that you get the side points for. So I don't know if I'm going to tweet this, but anyway, and by the way, we didn't say this last week, but Doc did make a last minute change after he made his original predictions. He had the Cavs and he replaced them with the Suns because I pointed out he probably wanted the Suns in there since he thought there was a good chance they were going to make it to the finals. So anyway, so Doc did make a last-minute change, but it was before the playoffs start, not like Cam, who waits a week and a half into the playoffs and then makes his picks.
I should have picked Miami Heat. I would have been everybody.
You'd be kicking. Nobody picked Miami, and you get lots of points for that. All right, so Doc's got the lead right now, but Booney could overtake him by the end of the weekend. All right, so as always, I want to thank all you guys for contributing. It was a fun show today. It was great because I was in a piss poor mood, but now I'm in a good mood after talking to y'all. And as always, I want to thank all our listeners and David who sent in a question. And if you ever miss an episode, you can always get caught up at hoopsprospects.com. And we'll be back next week with a special guest. Hopefully either the Elijah Martin from Florida Atlantic or Jelly Walker for UAB, or possibly both. And we'll talk more about college hoops, the NBA playoffs, and the NBA draft. Any final thoughts, gentlemen?
In 1995, I've said it before, an old Rockets team went back-to-back as the 60s. History repeats itself. Go Dubs.
Hey, I'll tell you what. When you look at their top 6 players, top 6, I think they're the best in the league.
Yeah.
Jordan Poole's not even playing much in this first
and he's
year.
playing bad.
Right. Well, I guess Looney's playing fantastic. Draymond's playing fantastic. Clay really turned it on last night. And Wiggins is just the quietest, most productive player. You know, they were having a discussion. I thought we might have, but we just didn't have time this week. But they were having a discussion on TV about the best twosomes in the NBA. And for Golden State, they put up Clay and Steph. And I'm thinking, that's not the twosome in Golden State. The twosome in Golden State is Steph and Wiggins. That's the big two in Golden State.
I mean, Wiggins has effectively, away from the name brand of the Splash Brothers, has taken on the role that Clay had pre-injury. He's averaging, if he didn't miss all the time, he's probably giving you 20 a game. Clay's, I think, his career average is like 21. He's playing the best defense along the perimeter, taking on the De'Aaron Foxes, taking on the Jason Tate. Whoever their better team's perimeter option is, he's guarding them, a la Clay when he used to have to check Chris Paul or have to guard Harden back when they were like, he has effectively taken on. He's not the shooter, but he's a better creator for himself.
Right, and a better shot blocker,
better
probably a better overall better rebounder than Clay ever was.
Yeah.
Better overall athlete, but nobody's a shooter. Clay is, or
Clay is, in my lifetime. I have this conversation. I'll end on this. In my lifetime, to defend Klay Thompson, because a lot of people are calling him corny and all this, I go, no, good for the Warriors for finally having enough of people talking all this. Right. They are the defending champions. They've won 4. This like good for them for finally flex your rings. Tell people to shut up. Like, we're the defending champs. You want it, come take it. But Klay Thompson, in my lifetime, the most impressive scoring performance I've ever seen is Kobe's 81. Like, live, that I can remember watching.
Right.
Klay might have like 3 of the next like 4 or 5. He's 37 in a quarter, 14 made threes in a game. That was 60 points on like 11 dribbles or something crazy like that. I don't know in my lifetime I've ever seen a player that when they go nuclear, they go freaking nuclear. So Klay is great sign. We got Game 6 Klay on deck. Warriors send him home, but respect to the Kings. I'm glad.
The Kings definitely have my respect. I really like them. I almost wore my white chocolate jersey today.
Classic. That's a classic.
I'll pull that out next week. But yeah, I've always liked the Kings from afar. But anyway, good show, guys. Great to see you, and we'll be back next week, folks.
Bye.